patient, but now we take it. Anytime we want this game, my situation is entertainment intertwined with information. Alchemist soul, how we move the tassel and roll. It's amazing how we can turn something brass to gold. And we steady making hits. Architect with the prop in the scripts. It's logical that the product will flip. My boy Chef did the lineup, I'm fresh in the bitch. Carnivorous Podcast, the newest show on the list. DQ on the boat, so I'm rocking the ship. While the music gon' be dope and the artist legit. Hold my beard, concrete cord, then stepped in the door. See, that's my man and he reppin' for show. And true saviors are playing with flavor. Lexicon Taylor, lines on point like a laser. We need that paper, we building the vault. Cause you niggas don't listen, y'all be waiting to talk. Lack accountability and try to make it our fault. But opposing us is trying to arm wrestle the hawk. You coming up short on your re-up, nigga we up. Really wouldn't want to be up. I kick my feet up. My beef is wagyu and my truck is all speakers. Bills is all blue and my blunt is all reefer. Responsible deniability, that boy eater. High quality whack juice by the liter. They like to call us ops, we got Oppenheimer features. That's the bomb out on the island just to teach you.
What up, though?
Peace. What's going on?
What's going on, Feti? Boy back in the building. Trimedia in the building. Shout out to my guy DQ. Shout out to my guy Hits. Shout out to my guy Logic. And shout out to everybody on the Carnivorous Podcast. Tonight's going to be a little different. I know y'all ain't seen me in a while. What's up, Mika? Peace to you. Tonight's going to be a little different. We're going to get right into it. We're not going to waste time. If you're in these conscious community conversations or these circles, then you know who we're talking to tonight. My man Feti. He's gonna have a genetic conversation. Now, I normally don't do these kinds of shows. We're gearing up for top of the year. We're gonna launch about 8 shows top of the year. So we just working behind the scenes. On top of that, Tri Media Records. So, you know, you're not going to see me live as much per se until we get to where we got to get. Peace to American Dream. But what I actually said, you know, I'm going to take time out and do a show like this. Y'all know I don't care less about the conscious community per se, but I do like to see other people, you know, get their shine. You know, it's about who you give the light to. I met Feti when I was in the Pseudo Killers Discord. And the funny thing is, when I first met Feti, it's a funny story. He immediately started posting. I mean, he hit the Discord running. He started posting different. It's funny. One of the things he posted is probably gonna come up tonight, but he was posting things from Sowell. He was posting things from Candace Owens, right? And I could tell the brother was eager, right? But then it was like he rubbed me the wrong way. But then pause. But then we had a conversation, like a real conversation outside of clips, videos, and all of that. And I understood, you know, he works with young people in the community. He takes this very serious. So part of the reason why I wanted to sit and have a conversation with him was because I think some people, it's not a game to everybody. I'll give you an example. Like sometimes I don't disrespect the Black Egypt conversation, because I understand that to some people it's very serious. Like Smash, he studied Medu Neter for a very long time. You know, I saw that video of him doing that like 10, 15 years ago. So that means he's taking it serious. So it's nothing to clown. And Feti takes this serious. So I've seen him and Chef going back and forth, him and Sosa going back and forth. And I know Feti doesn't have a platform. So I said, you know what, brother, I'm gonna take some time out of my day marching these trash Cowboys and Texans tonight. And I'm gonna give you a platform to get all your information off, say what it is that you need to say, put it out into the ether, and I'm gonna let it be, you know, this is something I'm actually wanting to do. It's a good spot when you could do the things that you want to do versus what you have to do. Shout out to all the people in Carnivorous chat. Drop comments. Chef is going to do an after party to this show, and I'm sure there'll be many videos made from this. If y'all come in beef and anger, then that'll be just what you choose to do. I shouted out Unk on the flyer, and I shouted out Sosa and them. So shouts to Pseudo Killers, and shout out to Carnivorous Podcast. I'm gonna read this first one. Peace to African teacher. What's up, Tika? Ignorance, pure ignorance. People claiming to teach the masses will dismiss the peer review when it's right in front of their face. The lie about what they did 3 weeks later. Wow. That's a peace to you, African teacher. That's definitely a good way to start the show. You're going to see a lot of sources from the brother, but hear him out. I'm going to let him do his little intro, and then we're going to get right into it. So, Feti, I know you in the building. Go ahead and talk to the people. I'm just driving the car. So just do what you do, and the world is yours. Go ahead, brother.
Peace. What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? Peace to the disc, peace to the chat, peace to the panel, Brass, Logic, everybody else. The reason why I wanted to bring the topic or just the whole conversation dealing with IQ and SAT scores and how, African Americans, us, finished last in a lot of those standardized tests. And I'm going to go into a lot of things. The first thing is that I need to make a disclaimer. This information is very sensitive based, and I know that it's going to get a lot of emotions, good or bad or whatever. But ultimately, I want to just pose ideas. I also want to make a disclaimer. I'm not giving my opinion on anything. More so, what I want to do is give historical context, introduce the different perspectives of scholars, and also see what we can do as lay people that can use these tools of science to progress a lot of things that, before technology and genetic studies and all of that was available, we couldn't really do. So, yeah, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the historical context of what exactly IQ tests are, and why it's so important in today's age. Now, as we know, thousands of years ago, when our ancestors were, farming or hunter and gathering, society was completely different. Now, as time goes on, especially 2024, seems as if a lot of jobs and careers demand a lot of complexity when it comes to cognitive ability, right? And IQ tests in particular has a strong predictive power when it comes to, what experts say in regards to having a test that measures certain aspects of intelligence. Now, I know the argument of what is intelligence can be asked by people, but when it comes to things such as the G factor, scholars use to basically identify certain things that have a direct correlation, meaning certain areas of test. I'm sure that y'all took a SAT test in high school, things and questions dealing with processing speed, meaning you look at a question, how fast are you able to logically come up with, whatever answer you have. They measure aspects dealing with spatial awareness, things dealing with pattern recognition. So that falls under to what scholars say fluid intelligence. There's two types of intelligences, right? And a lot of people say these tests could overlook or undermine the cultural differences. So what a lot of scholars did, even in the 1940s, created culture-free IQ tests that dealt strictly with fluid intelligence. Now, fluid intelligence is just your.
We can't hear you if you're talking.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what I was discussing in regards to the different forms of intelligence, you have fluid and crystallized intelligence. Fluid deals with your natural, quote unquote, given ability of just processing information. Crystallized information deals with external factors, education, culture, and things of that nature. So I just wanted to give that historical breakdown before I gave the what most people came here to look for, which was the Charles Murray bell curve.
You might cut out.
Can you hear me now? Okay, so can you hear me?
You know.
All
Yeah.
right, so what I want to do first is before we get into the Charles Murray fiasco and all of that, I want to go to the 1960s and talk about, if you can, Brass, pull up source number one.
Okay.
Richard Heyer, he's a current expert, deals with psychometric tests. He's the author of the neuroscience of intelligence. So he's an expert in this. And what he does is give context in the 1960s of a guy named Arthur Jensen. This is before the bell curve and anything like that. So I just wanted to share this quick clip of what he said.
Okay, give me 1 second, bro.
What I'm doing, I want to give again the historical context of the 60s before the human genome was mapped. Therefore, you had, experts and scholars doing the best they can, and most of them tied it to environment in regards to these IQ score gaps.
Okay, I'm gonna let it rock. Hold on, it's not loading up. Give me 1 second. Go ahead and talk for a second. Give me one second.
But yeah, I could just give a description on what he actually said. He said Arthur Jensen in the 1960s.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
This really became incendiary in 1969 with an article published by an educational psychologist named Arthur Jensen. Let's just take a minute and go back to that to see the bell curve in a little bit more historical perspective. Arthur Jensen was a educational psychologist at UC Berkeley. I knew him as well. And in 1969 or 68, the Harvard Educational Review asked him to do a review article on the early childhood education programs that were designed to raise the IQs of minority students. This was before the federally funded Head Start program. Head Start had not really gotten underway at the time Jensen undertook his review of what were a number of demonstration programs. And these demonstration programs were for young children around kindergarten age, and they were specially designed to be cognitively stimulating, to provide lunches, do all the things that people thought would minimize this average gap of intelligence tests. There was a strong belief among virtually all psychologists that the cause of the gap was unequal opportunity due to racism, due to all negative things in the society. And if you could compensate for this, the gap would go away. The opening sentence is, I may not quote it exactly right, but it's, "We have tried compensatory education and it has failed." And he showed that these gains were essentially nothing. You couldn't really document empirically any gains at all from these really earnest efforts to increase IQ. But he went a step further, a fateful step further. He said, not only have these efforts failed, but because they have had essentially no impact, we have to re-examine our assumption that these differences are caused by environmental things that we can address with education. We need to consider a genetic influence, whether there's a genetic influence on this group difference.
Okay, so
What is he saying right there? Like, in layman's terms, if you just explain it to me, because I'm probably the perfect person to do this for, when we do this video with. Just so we clear, you gave your disclaimer, I'm gonna give mine. This is completely outside of my wheelhouse. I'm literally helping a friend get his information out to the world. But some of this, I would like to be able to understand a little bit as we move forward. So, and some of the people in the chat might not understand it. So explain to me what he said like I'm a child. explain it that
Okay,
way.
cool. Okay, cool. So historical context, the reason why people now, whenever they bring up data dealing with differences, they get labeled a certain way. And what I wanted to do with Arthur Jensen, he was a guy in the 60s who had, like the expert said, earnest efforts. He was a person looking to make change, especially in minority communities. And what he did was he incorporated factors dealing with environment, socioeconomic status, all of that. And what he basically said was we tried our best efforts to mitigate that gap, and based off test results, it's either the same or gotten worse. So in the 60s, before the bell curve even came out, they
Mhm.
experts during that time linked it automatically to strictly environment, and based off data and case studies, they had to say, hold on, we need to take genetics into account. Not saying that genetics
Do
is
you
the
think
other
black
factor.
people are inferior?
Hold on, my fault. Go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's not that they're making any strong assumptions by saying A is genetic. They went through a scientific method, got data, and said, "Whoa, we need to change our methodology and take other things into account." So now let's fast forward to the 90s when the bell curve came out. Now, as we know, during the bell curve, the human genome still wasn't mapped, right? So what Charles Murray does, and a lot of people look that name Charles Murray, ruffles a lot of feathers. So I'm going to
I
try
know.
my best to break down what he tried to say, right?
Okay.
His point in bringing up the genetic factor is that he goes to ancestral populations, right? Now, most people, right, look at the world through races, right? And as we know, race is a social construct, right? But when it comes to ancestral populations, such as you take a 23andMe test, they can give you the region from which you came from, all of that, haplogroups, all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Murray says, and I want you to pull up number 2 for me. He basically is introducing a concept dealing with evolutionary biology. And what he's saying is that maybe these quote unquote possible genetic differences could come from different groups isolating from one another thousands of years ago and undergoing certain environmental pressures. So if you could pull up 2, he goes into great detail with that, because
Genetically?
what I want to do is show clips
No.
from Murray, because most people call him a racist, and all of that. If you could start it from the beginning, because he asks an important question to Murray that most people think that he has a opinion, which I think a lot of people have him misconstrued. So let's just hear what he says.
Okay. And then I got a question for you about the other video when you get a chance. And I'm
Okay.
gonna let this rock. Give me 1 second.
Mhm.
Okay, well,
I'm laughing because that's such a silly
And
question.
sorry to cut you off.
tell
Sorry to
me
cut
why
it
it's a
off,
silly
Brass. In
question.
the beginning of that, Glenn Lowry asked Charles Murray. He said, "Do you think black people are genetically inferior?" And his response just now was, "Absolutely not." And that's a silly question. And it's funny that most people who don't go extensively into Murray's work automatically says that he's a racist and he thinks that black people are genetically inferior, when he clearly made that distinction that he doesn't think that way. But you can go ahead with the clip.
So you're saying, so essentially when people are saying that he thinks that they are, that people think Murray thinks the black people are inferior, this is literally like a source stating, that he said it publicly that they're not inferior, correct?
Right.
Okay.
And he says it's a silly question to even ask in the beginning.
Okay.
They asked me, why did you have that guy on? He thinks black people are inferior.
Okay. Shall I unpack my answer a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. Are there genetic differences among people who self-identify as different ethnicities? Yes. The most clear differences are at the continental level, East Asia, Europe, Sub-Saharan Africa, and so forth. Are these genetic differences to be expected? Yes, absolutely. Somebody put it this way. He said, the chances that different groups that are separated geographically would have evolved exactly the same is about the same as the chance of dropping a handful of silver dollars and they all land on their edge. That's just not the way it works. If you have geographic boundaries, if you have other kinds of boundaries, and you're talking about tens of thousands of years, there is a lot of room for evolution to have taken place. And by the way, I'll just give you a little more background. Sorry, I love to talk about this because it's fascinating, all right? But also people have a very wrong impression. People, Stephen Jay Gould was famous for this, said the races can't be different because we only dispersed out of Africa 65,000 years ago or whatever. And evolution by mutation just takes forever. There hasn't been time for major differences to occur. And at the time he made that point in the 1980s, that was a respectable way to look at it. Subsequently, especially after the sequencing of the genome, we've learned that you can get much more rapid evolution than that through the variation that is called standing variation. Okay, I won't go any further into that.
Mm-hmm.
I will simplify.
Yeah, so that's the end of the clip right there. Did you have a question regarding the
Yeah,
first one?
explain it to me like I'm a child. Because see, listen,
Mhm.
I'll say in a heartbeat, I have no interest in, well, people know what I am. I'm more focused on politics. I'm more focused on finance. But conversations like this are important to me because I have children. So when I hear things about, I hear even the mention of Black people are genetically inferior, and there's things that we could do to help the schools. And I remember the SAT tests and IQ tests. They say all this stuff is biased and all of that. That's my interest in it. So why do they say? And I don't know who they is, right? Well, I'm on Chef's channel. Chef Sosa, let me know if I'm misrepresenting what y'all saying. But when they're saying that that Murray is racist, if it's not because he says that Black people are inferior, then where do they get the connotation that he is racist? Because they're not the only ones that say it. I've seen it in other circles when they talk about Charles Murray. So why do they say that? If he just said that they're not, why do other people still get that? What would give them that idea is what I'm trying to say.
In 19, when this book came out, he had a co-author. He actually passed away. So when he published the data and the bell curve came out, he actually had to deal with that flack and all of that tomato throwing on his own. And it's understandable at that time, before the human genome was mapped again, if you put out, forget the fact he even brought up genetics, the mere fact that you said white people on the average, right, averages 100, and Black people, Americans, average 80, 85, 15, a 15-point difference. That
Okay.
alone during that time, of course, will cause a lot of uproar. You know what I mean? So I'm showing you the context in real time of how we had Arthur Jensen in the 60s with earnest efforts. He was a good guy and actually helped minority communities by wanting to bridge those socioeconomic quote unquote differences that people today say why Charles Murray is quote unquote pseudo. Right?
Okay.
So when we look at Charles Murray in the 90s, we're just seeing, and I'm trying to establish just how, when you bring politics and certain beliefs into science, right, and you may not understand it, you're going to lash out at that person. It's okay to disagree with Murray, but what I find interesting is that so much baggage and personal shots is directed at this individual when all he's doing is creating a book, giving you sources that's laid out in a way that's very, comprehensive to even with me and you. It's not like he's coming up with these sources. He's citing the sources, giving you, where it came from, which university. So I just get confused on, again, why so much hate is directed to him. I understand he said genetics and it possibly can't be fixed, and you can disagree with that, but I don't think he's a racist. I don't think he looks at Black people inferior, which you just said. So I just say give the dude a fair shot, even if you disagree with him.
Okay. You're on mute.
And what's up to y'all, man? So this was, and I don't want to derail you, but this was one of the first.
Say hello first.
I thought I did. Hey, what's up, everybody, man? And I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I think this is going to be a hellified conversation moving forward with Feti, because I think it opens up a fresh conversation. Right. I think, man, we've been kind of like low key, like really needing that, having to talk about the same stale stuff over and over, looking at the same information, whether it's new or not, but to have a new, fresh conversation, I think that's pretty refreshing, me personally. But the first question that he asked him was black people inferior, right? Now, to me, it's what he didn't ask him. And what he didn't ask him is, does the bell curve study show that the average African American is less intelligent than the average white American? That's not what he asked him, right? So in all reality, he answered the question. I mean, honestly, that doesn't. So in his opinion, that bell curve showing this specific disparity doesn't cause him to look at African Americans inferior. But as he goes on to elaborate on his findings of sorts, it seems to be that there is something there that he's not directly saying, right? There's absolutely a gap that he's describing.
All right, hold on, Logic. Answer that, and then I want to go to the chat after that because I want to, we got to remember we're live in Tri Media and we're live in Carnivorous Podcast. So I want to just make sure I give them their respect too. So go ahead.
Yep. And to answer your and to further elaborate, Logic, the debate amongst scholars, and I keep saying this, the scores are the scores. The real debate is the causation, right? And that causation that people are getting riled up over, is it genetic, is it environmental, or is it an interplay of genetics and environment? And we don't specifically know the percentage distribution yet of exactly what's going on, right? So the scores, again, like nobody is arguing the deviation differences. Yes. And this is the thing too. It's not promoting anything that should make anybody feel inferior, because if that's the case, I don't see white people making videos irate saying that they're inferior to Asians, because Asians score higher than white Americans and black Americans. You know what I mean? So it's not the rhetoric that most people think, saying that white people are the supreme, most intelligent people and all of that. That's not really what it is. It's giving you scores. And even SAT scores, right? And I brought up earlier the G factor, which all standardized tests have, that could literally has such a strong predictive power. It can correlate to your potential career, what type of job you have, right? And just look at math like this. This is startling math, Logic and Brass. You have roughly, I think he says, 16% of the population in America, if I'm not mistaken, that scored under an 85. Now, if you do the math to population,
Say that again.
He basically said 16% of America, what Richard Heyer said. He said that 16% finished below 85. And when you talk about a society that demands certain jobs, he's saying that that's damn near 50 million people that basically can't find a job that fits their cognitive abilities. Take race out of it. He's just saying and when you look at 16% sounds low, but again, when you take into account the large population in America, those are millions of people that's automatically, quote unquote, behind the 8 ball because of their low scores. So they may not be able to get a job. They may not be able to find something that, can sustain them as human beings today in this complex society that demands, certain cognitive skills. The higher up you go in career, whether you're a engineer, data analyst, manager, or whatever. So he's saying that, people who score low, that's cool, but hey, it's millions of people with this problem. So that's what makes it problematic, that IQ score has such a predictive power. It determines your job, quality of life, and all of that, possibly. So that's where it becomes like, whoa. So what I just sent, right, with Murray, I sent that to establish his perspective of the genetic component. Now, I want to say that you notice I haven't given my opinion on anything, right? I want to set the stage for, okay, now the reception of what Murray has gotten from the community has been, no, it's strictly environmental. So if you could pull up number 3
Hold on,
for you?
wait. Before we do that, let me hold on one second. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Before we do that, sorry, I had to take care
I
of
got you.
something. Before we do that, I want to show the live to the comments once again. Shouts out to the Carnivorous Podcast. And if you want to speak to any of these comments, definitely put your comments in the chat. We're not taking anybody. We're not putting a link in the chat and all of that. Chef's going to do a full after party after this, where you can critique and do this. This is just for posterity's thought. Matter of fact, shout out to posterity's thought. Africa teacher says, I'm assuming he's talking about the title. The title is DNA, Data, and Denial. Are we choosing ignorance over progress? I'm assuming, pause, that Africa teacher, you're saying we're choosing ignorance, pure ignorance. People claim to teach the masses. They'll dismiss the peer review when it's right in front of their face and then lie about what they did 3 weeks later. Shouts to Tika, shouts to Posterior's Thought, the entire Chief X in the building. What's going on? For some reason, Babylon Don, explain why you put Francis Cress Wilson. That was like earlier in the video. Timmy Turner, peace to you. Michael, peace to you. I think that's Stu Peace. I think he was saying that one of those people was pseudo. Shouts to Donnie Williams, man. #1 mod in the history of modding. There was a comment I wanted to get here. Peace to Danny Wilson. What's going on, G? I told you Trump was going to win, by the way, Danny Wilson. You owe me some corn or something off that farm. Peter Bag Juice, what's going on, G? I think that's Haskell, right? Shouts to Haskell. American Holocaust survivor. This is a good question. It says, where is IQ found and what part of the brain is it located? I don't know. That's set up.
Yeah, they haven't got that deep into studies, but they do know that, again, IQ deals with functions of the brain. Neuroscientists are actually saying in the future they may be able to predict IQ via brain scans. So when that actually is implemented, I'm sure they'll be able to identify and target which regions of the brain. But right now, I don't think they're that deep into the studies yet, because a lot of these studies, neuroscience, behavioral genetics, it's actually kind of new. So what we're seeing in real time is that as new discoveries are made in these fields, they may implement a lot of things into policy that may change how we look at society as a whole, if that makes sense.
Africa teacher says he does look at people as inferior. He can't look at his data and think otherwise. Furthermore, look at his age. He is conditioned to Black inferiority, as most Americans right now. Peace to Shesmu, its environment and a push for success. And then I'll go to some of the latest ones. Okay, American, is Feti from the Caribbean or Ghana? Alan Rutherford is a renowned geneticist, and he says our genomes are distinct, extremely different from African. Do you agree with that?
Nah, I'm from Richmond, Virginia, bro. My family was actually they came here.
Yeah. Tell that quick story about your family, bro.
So I'm from Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah.
I actually have a lot of history behind my family. We came here in the 1650s from Cameroon, and luckily I have a lot of records to show, like, the plantation my family was at, called Curls Neck Plantation. They were actually enslaved by a person named Robert Pleasance. Came over here as a Liverpool Quaker. He actually established the Quaker Society of America in Virginia, and my ancestors actually got freed in a court case called Pleasance versus Pleasance in 1771 by Quakers, and they actually gave my grandmother and her 10 siblings that's still alive, they gave them 100,000 because the place where they were located, a war was fought there, and my ancestors actually grew food for the soldiers and things of that nature. So they consider that a historical landmine. It's called Gravel Hill in Varina, Virginia. So yeah. I'm not Ghanaian or from the islands. I'm from Virginia.
They asked, are you going to put sources? That's definitely, we're just getting the information.
Yeah, for
we're
sure.
setting a baseline.
And
we're just setting a baseline. Hold on, Fetty. All right, so we're just setting a baseline information. If y'all here for like just like, you know, whatever normal stuff. Nah, this is actually going to be informative. And then at the after party, y'all can go absolutely crazy. I didn't want no parts of that part. That's why I'm doing this part. I think it's Abjuer, so I'm assuming that's God Killer. Let us know. Shouts to God Killer in the building. Go ahead, Fetty. Say what you got to say. And while I line up your next video.
Oh, no doubt. I want to make another disclaimer, man. Like, watching this, don't think that I'm giving my opinion on anything. What I want to do is let's put a lens on scientists and a lot of the contradictions that they have within their own circles. And let's also turn that lens to Black culture, right? Because I want to give my opinion on it. I don't necessarily agree with Murray. I've said that 100 times. But me as a learner, I need to look at all sides. And what I'm doing today on this show is giving historical context, giving both sides of the argument, and give you also sources that, you know, on each side support what they're saying. So for us, we could have all of this shit at the, you know, just at the table for us to, you know, process everything that's going on. So now that I've laid down what Charles Murray in the bell curve has said regarding ancestral populations, I now want to go to number 3 because I think this is very important. External environmental factors was the response for Charles Murray. A lot of people said that, you know, things such as lead, you know, socioeconomic status, all of that has to be taken into account. So I just wanted to show that perspective of what it was. So what I wanted to send was basically scholars who don't use the genetic talking point. They more so point to environment and culture. Now, this is fun, right? Because this is where the accountability part comes in. I do think certain aspects of Black culture is detrimental to certain parts of our progression, right? And
Mm-hmm.
culture deals with what you find important, whether it's education, partying, doing whatever. And I think culture does play an important factor in regards to possibly these IQ differences, right? So what I want to do is show the different sources that support the environmental argument.
Okay, so this is what I have listed number 3. Is this correct?
Yes, if you could read it for me, it's too small. I can't really see it on my
All right, so
phone.
this what we gonna do, right?
And this is
All right,
by
all right.
geneticist Catherine Page Hardin, in her
Okay.
book The Genetic Lottery: Why DNA and Social Equality Matters.
Okay, before we get started, let me just take these last 2 things in the chat. It says confetti tell it. We'll get back to that, Bron. I promise you, we'll get back to that.
Yeah, we're gonna go over all of that. We're gonna go over
And
all
Brother
of that.
Mathis asks, what is this conversation based on? Take 20 seconds for the people that just joined us because we just jumped probably double in viewers. Just take 20 seconds, give me an elevator pitch on exactly what it is you're here today to accomplish.
This conversation is based on alarming data that shows that African Americans are finishing last or damn near last in a lot of standardized tests, whether it's IQ tests, whether it's SAT scores or whatever. And I think instead of turning a blind eye, we should look at this information. I understand the debate is what's the causation of these scores, but the reality is that the scores are the scores. So in order for us to possibly change these scores in the future and help these young Black children out, we have to face the problem head on instead of turning a blind eye. So what I'm doing is just creating the conversation, taking my opinion out of it, and just laying out what scholars are saying.
Okay, so I'm gonna read this for you. All right, so what tool is used to measure the neurotoxic effects of lead? IQ tests. The IQ deficits that result from lead exposure prevent researchers and policymakers from shrugging off the effects of lead as temporary or trivial. And that is just one example. In her book, A Terrible Thing to Waste, hold on, Logic, mute your mic. You killing me with your keys on your keyboard. In her book, A Terrible Thing to Waste, Harriet Washington documents how people of color are overwhelmingly more likely to be exposed to environmental hazards like toxic waste and air pollution. Moreover, she argues that IQ tests, by providing a numerical metric for a child's ability to reason abstractly, are currently an irreplaceable tool for quantifying the perniciousness of what she terms environmental racism. In today's technological society, the species of intelligence measured by IQ tests is what's deemed most germane to success. IQ is too important to ignore or wish away. What was she trying to say with that? I'm gonna leave that on the screen while you talk. What
Oh
was
yeah,
she trying to say
absolutely.
with this?
What she's saying is something I just reiterated, is that this IQ has such a predictive power. It can, in a valid way, show possibly your educational attainment, job, etc., that I spoke of earlier. So what
Mm-hmm.
she's saying, instead of incorporating the ancestral population talking point that Murray used, what I'm sending is scholars who more so focus on the environmental aspect, and this is just one aspect of it, lead, right? And what she's saying is that we need to look into these things in our communities, whether it's lead or whatever, to highlight why certain scores are the way they are. And as we know, if we can fix things like that, then that can possibly, do good in regards to that. So that's one aspect of environment that I wanted to talk about in regards to the possible causes of these low scores. Another aspect of environment, and this is gonna be the good part, y'all. I know a lot of y'all don't like Thomas so well, but what he does in source number 5, he adapts
So you want me to skip
James.
4? You want me to skip 4? Because that's 3.
Yeah,
You want me
yeah,
to
yeah.
skip 4?
You can do Thomas Sowell. What he does is actually applies expert James Flynn. James Flynn, his philosophy is that IQ can be changed based off culture and environment, right? So what I want to do is show what Sowell says, and Sowell, he just breaks it down, like he breaks it down clear cut. I think black culture is detrimental to IQ, black IQ.
So do
He
you want me?
doesn't.
I didn't hear you. Did you want me to skip 4 or
Yeah,
no?
yeah. So number 5 with Thomas Sowell. I broke down from Catherine Page Hardin the environmental aspect dealing with lead. Now let's see what Sowell says dealing with culture, because culture falls under environment and external factors, right? So let's see
Okay.
what he says.
Okay, 1 second. Shouts out to DL in the building. Shouts out to Pan African James in the building. Okay, shouts to you. And for those that, I mean, are you willing to give the people these sources also
Yeah,
if need
absolutely,
be?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
And you
Yeah, we
said
got.
number
Yeah, we
5,
haven't
right?
even got to the sources yet, though. I'm gonna upload, and as we go on, we're gonna show all the sources and clear everything up and give both perspectives. So just keep tuning in.
Okay. Okay. Well, whether they tune in today, tomorrow, or otherwise, I'm sure this is going to be a pretty popular
evidence
video.
that the black subculture.
All right, hold on 1 second. This is the video, correct?
Yep.
1 second. Just want to make sure you're right. Okay, got it.
Has a negative effect on intellectual achievement. An empirical study published by the National Bureau of Economic Research found that a higher percentage of black schoolmates has a strong adverse effect on achievement of blacks, and moreover, that the effects are highly concentrated in the upper half of the ability distribution. In other words, brighter black students do not perform as well in settings where there are many other black students around them, contrary to the theory that what is needed in educational institutions is some larger critical mass of black students in order to make them feel socially comfortable and thus able to do their best work academically. Yet the unsubstantiated critical mass theory has flourished from academic journals to Supreme Court briefs. Another study, focusing on the effect of ability grouping on the performances of students in general, mentioned among its conclusions, schooling in a homogeneous group of students appears to have a positive effect on high-ability students' achievements, and even stronger effects on the achievements of high-ability minority youth. In other words, high-ability minority youngsters do better in classes that are intellectually homogeneous rather than racially homogeneous, or in which there are many members of their own race. The negative effects of the black subculture on intellectual development are manifested in other ways as well. A study of high IQ black adults found that they described their childhoods as extremely unhappy more often than other blacks. This study was done long before the current reports of academically striving black students being accused by their peers of acting white. Empirical studies during this later era show a negative correlation between black students' academic achievement and their popularity among other black students. An opposite pattern was found among white Americans and Asian Americans. In England, lower-class whites show a pattern strikingly similar to that among American blacks who resent academically achieving classmates. British physician Theodore Dalrymple reports lower-class school children being beaten up so badly by their lower-class classmates as to require hospital treatment simply because they are doing well in school.
Now, this is going to be the interesting part of the show because this is going to require some looking internally. Now, what I want to ask y'all, and even people in the chat, when you went to middle school, high school, did you notice a lot of those things that Thomas Sowell brought up, whether it was, say, a lunch table, right, of the cool kids? And, you know, we let's be real, in black culture, well, in my experience, the person who strived intellectually, who wanted to, I guess, get ahead and actually apply themselves, they was looked at as squares. They was looked at as the ones, oh, you ain't cool. Who is this guy? Look at this nerd right here. You know? So what Thomas Sowell does is hint something very interesting. The fact that he said there's data that shows a young black intellectual child thrives better in a diverse environment that's based strictly off cognitive ability versus being in a class that's homogenous based off race is very interesting.
So,
So
go ahead. Cook
yeah,
up.
so that things like that, what Thomas Sowell said, this is good because this goes against, again, what Murray is saying. Sowell is saying these are things that we can clean up. A lot of people say, well, Asians and their culture, they don't play that shit. They kids study a certain amount and it's in their culture to do certain things. Or even it's a lot of quote unquote Arabian doctor parents that literally force their daughters and sons to, go through the same career path they did, and if they don't, they get cut off completely. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of cases like that to where culture, and a lot of things that we think is quote unquote cute, the drill and all of that, are these things that is toxic in our culture. Is this having a profound impact on our children? I think so. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just wanted to bring up the cultural aspect because we don't have to get stuck on Charles Murray. I'm bringing up different perspectives on purpose so we can get a diverse perspective of the environmental argument and the strictly genetic argument. So now that we got that down packed, the environmental possible causes, culture, lead, and other socioeconomic factors, oppression, trauma, violence, exposure in adolescence, that has a effect on low scores and things of that nature. So now that we have that established, I now want to go to the fake outrage that some people on the other side of the argument, scholars, they use, genetics to say, hey, maybe Charles Murray was right. They're not ignoring the possible environmental causes that I just brought up, but they're also taking into account, hey, biogeographic ancestry seems to have some type of, effect on, cognitive abilities amongst various populations. And if you study evolution, the variations in groups, within groups, are very high. You know what I mean? The analogy I gave the other day was like, man, if you just see certain groups, yeah, like black people, you found a black person on a football basketball team, yeah, he was slow, but there just may be more African Americans who are gifted in certain areas of sports. It doesn't mean other people are slow or whatever. So now let's go to
Hold on.
Uh-huh.
So
Mm-hmm.
now Heathcliff, this is what I was thinking too.
Mm-hmm.
So is he saying so what in that video he made a couple of comments. I'm sure other people will critique it, but he made a comment about essentially, maybe I misheard him. Let me logic, you heard it too, of him saying that it wasn't basically by being in a school with all black people essentially, that was actually like a danger for us.
Yep.
Just as a culture? Is that what he
Yeah,
was trying to
he's
hint
saying
at?
that intellectual, like young black children, thrived in an environment where it was based off diversity and talent, cognitive ability, versus a homogenous class of people, basically all black people, and the variance in that black classroom isn't based off skill and cognitive ability. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Okay, logic. You got something you want to say?
At this point, I got a lot I want to say, bro.
No. But listen.
I'm gonna try to say. I'm gonna try to say a
There's an
little
after
bit.
part. There's an after party.
I'm gonna just say a
Let
little
him
bit.
cook, because this is what happens. See,
I'm not doing it.
Don't do the reason why we had to do this show in the first place. Because the reason
I'm not
why
doing it.
we had to do this show in the first place, just so we clear, is because every time he start cooking, and then he say something that go against the grain or get in people's feelings, then that's when everybody start trying to shout him down. So I want him to get all his information out.
Okay, so
and then go. So no opinions, just ask questions. No opinions, just ask questions.
It wouldn't be no opinion, but like, so with that being said, right? I concur. Right, there are some cultural things that we can absolutely change within our own community to promote smarter kids. And like in that video, it ended with the guy talking about the smarter kids were were like having to fight, or they were being, somebody was being aggressive with them just simply because they were smarter kids. Like that's something that we might be able to curve as time goes on. If I'm not mistaken, there are other cultures, and I can't remember if it's Japanese, Korean, or Chinese, but in one of those cultures, it's the complete opposite, right? The smart kids are the people with all the friends, right? They're the people who are getting the girls in school, and it's not the guy who has I don't have a good way to say it, but a pocket full of money in high school. I'll put it like that, right? That's not necessarily the guy with all the friends or all the girls. But that's how that's how our culture is. That's like the dominant I guess thought process when it comes to us in high school. And it is what it is. I think that's something that we can control to actually help curve any disadvantages that we might have with our environment interacting with our genes to do whatever it does to our IQ.
Okay. All right, Fetty, go ahead and cook. I'm gonna let you get your sources out.
All
and
right.
then,
So now what we're going to do now, I think I've laid out, the people who highlight environment and may go against, the perspective of Charles Murray. Now what I'm going to do, right, as we know, a lot of these studies are being published every year, right? And one thing that I've noticed, I'm not saying that I agree, right? One thing as I learn these things, right, I'm like, damn, okay, there's a certain sector of scholars who say it's environmental, but when I look deeper into it, and they're incorporating something called biogeographic ancestry, cognitive ability, and socioeconomic outcomes. This is the source right here, and I wanted to highlight. And if you could, Brass, could you read? If I could read it, but it's a little small. But I wanted you
no.
to
I
just,
got you.
yeah. And I want to highlight that survey that they're talking about. So you can go ahead.
Okay, give me 1 second because this is small. Let me get a little closer to the screen. All right, so biogeographic ancestry, cognitive ability, and socioeconomic outcomes by Emil. If I mispronounce their names, Kierkegaard, Michael A. Woodley of Meany, Robert L. Williams, John First, and Gerhard Meisenberg. Biogeographic ancestry groups have commonly been called races. Examples of these groups include East Asians, Europeans, Sub-Saharan Africans, and Amerindians. Cognitive ability differences appear both between nations, e.g., example, in predominantly European versus predominantly African national populations, and between self-identified racial and ethnic sire groups within nations, whites versus African Americans in the United States. The causes of inter and intra-national cognitive ability gaps is highly uncertain and hotly debated, with some researchers arguing that genetic differences are substantially or even predominantly responsible for at least some of these gaps, and others maintaining that non-genetic environmental factors fully account for the gaps. Nevertheless, in the most recent survey of intelligence researchers, genes were rated as the most important cause, 17% of international differences, followed by educational quality, 11.44%, health, 10.88%, mute your mic logic, and educational quantity, 10.2%. Further, 90% of the surveyed experts believe that international differences were at least in part genetic in origin. Renderman, Coyle, and Becker also reported that 83% of survey respondents believed that the black-white cognitive gap in the USA is partially due to genetic differences between the relevant populations. While there certainly is no general consensus amongst researchers, a substantial number of them believe that both international and certain international sire differences in cognitive... Hold on, I got to remove this banner real quick because I can't read the last sentence. 1 second. Hide. Do you know what the last sentence says? Because I can't read this last part. Scroll, cancel. Okay, so I'm gonna start again. While there certainly is no general consensus among researchers, a substantial number of them believe that both international and certain intranational sire differences in cognitive ability have a partial genetic basis. Explain that to me like I'm a child. Go ahead.
Okay, so remember all of that backdrop I've gave in regards to why people say it's environmental?
Yes.
That study right there actually gave a survey amongst intelligent researchers today, and as you saw, what did they say was the main cause? Based
Genetics.
off, right. So as a learner, again, notice how I'm not bringing my opinion up at all. When I read this stuff, right, and this is what I'm gonna segue into, it seems as if there's a war about to be started within scholarly circles, right? You have groups of people who may be politically influenced or whatever, agendas or whatever, that's saying it's environmental, and anybody who brings up genetics, whether they do acknowledge there's an environmental aspect as well. The mere fact that they acknowledge a 2% genetic influence, it's a group of people, aka fake outrage society, that's automatically labeling those scholars as racist and promoting divisiveness, right? So I want to next, and a lot of people in this community know who Razib
Nah,
Khan
before
is.
you go further,
Can you
Uh-huh.
because I
put that
think
back on the
this...
screen for a second?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, before you go further, I don't wanna get too far away. We're gonna get back into your sources and get into
Yeah.
the after party. Once again, shouts to the Carnivorous Podcast, shouts to God Killer, Pseudo Killers, Pan African James is in the building, Chief X is in the building. Shouts to all you guys. But like I said, this show is just for information purposes. Chef is going through the Discord where y'all can hit the links and talk about what was being said and all of that. But right now, we're just trying to get the information out. I'm going to put this out. I don't want to be in here too long. We already here an hour. I only want to be here another 30, 40 minutes presenting the sources. And then, we'll go forward in that way. I'm going to add this back to the stage. I have a quick question before you go further, though. So how do you feel? I don't know what you think. I just want to know how you feel when you hear that Black people essentially, outside of environmental factors, outside of economic factors, right? How do you feel when someone says the words Black people, quite possibly to the tune of 40%, 50%, whatever you want to call it, it's in our genetics that we may be technically struggling with IQ. Outside of everything else, we might just be born that way. How do you feel when you read that? Or how do you feel when you hear something like that? It was uncomfortable for me to even read.
Yeah, reading it and a lot of this data is very depressing. I'm gonna be honest. For anybody who thinks I get a kick out of reading this type of information, you're completely wrong. I feel the thing is like a double-edged sword, right? Although I feel horrible reading it, I'm thankful for the fact that science and tools can give me a possible solution for us to fix it. You know what I mean? So yes, it's a terrible thing to hear. Like, yeah, genetics and what your ancestors and their isolations and their environmental pressures may have effects on you today. And let me just go on this quick note. When it comes to ancestral populations, actually it plays a huge role whether we know it or not. For example, I made this point earlier. My haplogroup, my maternal haplogroup is L1C2. That's from West and Central Africa, shared by uh, Proto-Bantu women and Pygmy women. And basically, there are articles that saying just because I have the haplogroup L1C2, I'm at a higher risk of glaucoma, right? So, and even sickle cell, how that's prevalent in certain, African American people. So what our ancestors did in the past obviously has some effect on us now. I'm not really talking about IQ, but it
Hmm.
puts you into perspective like, wow, our ancestors, African American ancestors, not Chicago ancestors, we've been in those environments for 12 plus thousand years, and we just got removed from those environments damn near 400 years ago. So the thought that I have is that when scholars like Charles Murray said it's unfixable, are we going, this is just a thought I have, thought experiment. Is he basically saying that we're going against thousands of years of evolution and adaptations and environmental pressures and shit like that, So it's a trippy thought experiment. Like, again, it's not a good thing to, like, I don't feel good reading it, but I try to be solution based. And like you said, Brass, in order to get, in order to really find virtue and find the solutions, you gotta go through shit that's uncomfortable. And
Right.
reading this information is indeed uncomfortable. You know what I
All right,
mean?
Logic. Before you go, where the Tony Apsu shouts to Ancient World Reimagine, huge Facebook group. I think it's like 90 plus thousand people. Shouts to the hard work. Where are the cognitive studies in regards to this? And people are, and it's like the third time people ask, so I gotta ask how the people want to know how old you are, and then two, where are the cognitive studies with this information? Where's the evidence? Do you have any information or any source on where's the cognitive evidence of this? I'm talking to you, Fetty.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. So where do you
There are
have any
sources.
yeah.
What I do is I'll send a source in the chat. There are multiple sources, right, that talks about the three theories in regards to why scholars think this cognitive differences in ancestral populations are the
He just got disconnected. Go ahead, Logic. Say whatever it is you want to say. He'll be back. I mean,
Um,
listen, this is kind of crazy because when I decided to do this show, I don't go live anymore, really. So
mhm.
this is when I decided to do this show. The one thing I did not think that we was gonna be, I guess I didn't get from the Discord conversations is that there are actual sources or studies that say that we are genetically inferior. And don't disprove it. Let him do that in the after party. I'm just asking, were you aware of this before I put this up, or what?
Um, I mean, I wasn't aware that there's direct information that says exactly what this says.
Mm-hmm.
Now, me personally, I would branch into I would start with, like, what's the consensus, and then maybe look up some critiques of the experiment, which is where I found most of the useful information. Like, what were the critiques of the bell curve experiment? But in this particular, article, it says what it says, right? I'd be curious to know exactly, like the question says. So where's the study that has the data that led them to this conclusion, right? I
Right.
think that's I think that should be a very fair question. And how respected is it among other academics? Right? Are these 4 or 5 people, there's names on here, the only people that are, amening this particular material, or who've had a chance to peer review and vet the data that comes along with this particular study? So there's a lot of other things that I would look for before I just take this for full 100%. But I mean, it's a start. It is. At this point, you've gone beyond your own opinion, and you've at least cited something that you've actually found. And I think that there are ways that you can go beyond that to get an either better grasp on exactly what this is that you have actually found. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's definitely interesting.
I wanted to establish just this
sure.
example to give it out there, like that survey is important.
Can I ask you a favor too, man?
Hold on, let him finish, Logic. Let him finish.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah. That survey.
Remember why we're here.
I was gonna ask you a favor, not him.
Okay, yeah. What you need?
Can you put "are black people" inferior instead of
yes,
black
I got
people?
you. Yeah, for sure. That's why I put the question mark. But whatever you need, because trust me, I wasn't even comfortable even
typing that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So all I wanted to do was establish the two sides of the spectrum of which scholars are talking about. So what I want to do next, Brass, is to pull up this Razib Khan clip and what he does. And a lot of people in this community know who Razib Khan is. He crushed, your Black Egypt dreams, to those listening. But he's a guy.
Razib Khan. What number?
Yeah,
what number
Khan.
is that?
Number 7, and he
number
poses
7.
something very interesting, which is science on a collision course with political agendas and fake outrage, to the point where our new discoveries in these fields of behavioral genetics, neuroscience, is there a possibility that due to this outrage of them losing their career, being called racist or whatever, are we at risk of scientists being afraid to post or publish information that requires, or will give a lot of, radioactive responses? So I wanted to send and play what Razib Khan actually said.
All right, so I also want to say shout out to Marcus in the building. I want to say this too, because I already know I kind of see where this is going to go. I'm not saying you, Marcus. I'm just saying in general. I'm giving license. I'm one of the owners of Tri Media. I'm giving license to anyone that wants to use this video. You don't have to worry about what's the word? Logic. You don't got to worry about us
striking the channel.
Striking, yeah, we won't strike your channel. I want this out. I want people to see it. I don't really care about the views per se. I just wanted Feti to get his words off. But if you need to clip this or use it, or you want to watch it or whatever, just do whatever you got to do with it. I'm not going to. I'll make that call. You won't be struck if you use this video. Go ahead and talk while I pull up this source. And this is the Razib Khan, correct?
Yep.
Now this is the guy in the Discord they were saying was racist or something, right?
Right. And one thing I found interesting, the lady that called him racist had a Black Lives Matter hashtag in the tweet, and that hints that this is a political undertone for maybe why she feels this way. She's entitled to. But Razib Khan, he's a respected person in his field. So I just get irritated when I watch people. A lot of lectures that based off what I see no racist indication. But it seems as if just because they speak on certain things, they get labeled a certain way, and it has a lot of political undertones to it.
Okay, and also shout out to Sadiq and the Magi Archers. Shout out to y'all, man. Y'all still out there getting it. I appreciate all your hard work.
So yeah, Brass, we can
vary what the outcome is utilitarian.
Okay, hold on. Go ahead. What you want to say?
Yeah, what you could do is, while that is playing, I just want to play 2 clips back to back just to present an overall theme that I'm trying to present.
Okay, so 7 and 8.
Yes. The one with Sam
I'll
want to present.
I'll get 8 prepared.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, set this up. This is Razib Khan talking to who?
let me see his name.
Kushal
Yeah.
Mehra, but
Yeah.
okay. But what is he talking about before we get started? Before I play it,
He had a whole video talking about genes and IQ, and he actually brings up Murray. You know, the pushback, things he agreed with, and he basically keeps it non-biased, and he also gives his perspective on his problem. You can tell in this clip that's about to be played, he has a certain frustration that he thinks we live in a society to where, again, you may have to suppress data in the name of keeping people comfortable, and he has a problem with that. So
okay, no problem. All right. I can't hear this. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that invariant of what the outcome is in a utilitarian worldview. You know, a lot of people have privately told me, yeah, I think that there's group differences in IQ that are due to genes, but we just need to lie about it, and they think that that's better for the world. So maybe it is. I mean,
that's the thing.
People have told me that. A lot of people have told me that. So,
but now with the genie out of the bottle, look, these books.
No. There's no genie out of the bottle. It doesn't. Science doesn't matter. Like, scientists will lie to your face. They will. If there's enough pressure, they'll lie to your face. Like, these are not men of courage anymore. So, these are not Galileo. Trust me. They're bureaucrats. They will lie to your face.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I'm gonna play that again. He says something in there that I find problematic, and the only reason I'm gonna say it because I want you to speak directly to it. I'm gonna play the clip one more time. He said science doesn't matter.
He's actually reinforcing. He's saying, he's being sarcastic and trolling. He's saying science doesn't matter. Scientists will lie to your face. We're not in the times of Galileo where people had courage and stood on what they said. So what he said, that it actually was hyperbole.
So what is he trying to? So he's just
basically saying integrity over emotions. So like, if you play it over, and you'll be able.
So if the data is telling you that genealogy, the genetics is in regards to the inferiority, have the courage to say it, but these guys don't have the courage. That's why they won't say it. Is that an easy way to say it? Okay.
Right. Yeah. Play it over. Play what he's saying.
Invariant of what the outcome is in a utilitarian worldview. You know, a lot of people have privately told me, yeah, I think that there's group differences in IQ that are due to genes, but we just need to lie about it, and they think that that's better for the world. So maybe it is. I mean,
that's the thing.
People have told me that. A lot of people have told me that. So,
but now with the genie out of the bottle, look, these books.
No. There's no genie out of the bottle. It doesn't. Science doesn't matter. Like, scientists will lie to your face. They will. If there's enough pressure, they'll lie to your face. Like, these are not men of courage anymore. So, these are not Galileo. Trust me. They're bureaucrats. They will lie to your face.
Okay, while I set up the next video, go ahead and speak a little bit to that. Yeah, I know Logic. I could see it all in your face. You pontificating. You got, as the video is playing, I'm just picturing that Terminator logo you got. You going absolutely crazy, and you got the is that Merlot or Cabernet? Merlot or Cabernet Sauvignon? What you got? Or Ripple? You got Ripple in there, or what you
Ripple? God,
what you got going?
Dang, I got this Mad Dog. I just put it in a wine glass. I'm gonna stick my pinky out.
No, seriously, you got Merlot. Was that Cabernet or what? What you got?
I just tried different. I tried different ports.
Okay. Hopefully, you ain't trying Taylor port.
This was something from the Mediterranean. I like the bottle, so I gave it a shot.
All right. Okay. So you drinking
this Egyptian wine?
You drinking the bitumen tonight? You got the bitumen without the rocks tonight. Okay.
There's a crushed up mummy in my glass.
Yeah, you acting real nihilotic. I don't even know what that means. I know that probably sounds crazy. But go ahead, Feti. Speak to while I'm pulling up number 8.
Yeah,
because number 8 isn't a video. Number 8
Brad,
isn't a video, just to let you know.
I was gonna say, before I send what Sam Harris says, do you have the source that says facing the facts of
yeah,
IQ
that's what I said, because that's what number 8 is on my
stuff. Cool. Yeah, I want to pull that up, and I know I got you reading a lot of shit. My bad, bro.
No, bro, listen. I signed up for this. I don't have to go live. That's the beauty of it. But I
Yeah.
decided to go live for you tonight. So let's whatever you need me
All right,
to
so let's
do
get
to
it. Let's
get
get
this
it.
off. Yeah, let's get
Okay,
it.
so let's get it. So now that y'all heard Razib Khan, right, put it out there by saying scientists possibly are getting bullied into suppressing data, let's look at what this source says, right? If you can read it,
From where? Or
Brass.
read
Like
it
you can read
from
the abstract, but emphasize what's highlighted in yellow, if you can.
okay, so facing the facts about test score gaps. Hold on. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this up bigger on my screen, and then I'm gonna let y'all see it on that screen. It's probably easier for me in the Discord. Okay. No, it's not. Yeah, it is. It's easier for me in the Discord. Okay, so facing the facts about test score gaps. Funding. No specific funding was received for this work. Potential competing interests. No potential competing interest to declare. Abstract. I first reviewed 7 separate lines of evidence which indicate that the differences in average intelligence test scores between racial groups are partly attributable to the genetic variation across biogeographic ancestries, such as African, East Asian, and European ancestries. I focus on the U.S. black-white test score gap, for which the evidence is most comprehensive. The widely promulgated public dogma that the causes of the black-white test score gap are entirely environmental is not empirically plausible given these 7 lines of evidence. Other race-related test score gaps may also have a genetic component. I then confront the sensitive public policy question of whether these findings should be openly acknowledged or suppressed. Motivation and key concepts. Motivation for the paper. The existence of race-related differences in average intelligence test scores, such as the gap between the average scores of self-identified Black and white Americans, is generally acknowledged, but the underlying causes of such gaps is a source of contention. In this paper, I first review multiple strands of evidence for a causal role of genetic variation associated with biogeographic ancestry and partly explaining these differences. I focus on the black-white intelligence test score gap. This gap is not the only observed difference in average intelligence test scores across racial groups, but is the best studied. I describe 7 mutually supportive lines of evidence indicating that this test score gap is partly caused by genetic variation between the Black and white racial groups related to their differing average proportions of African and European ancestry. I reject as implausible the widely promulgated theory that the gap is purely environmental. Other observed test score gaps, such as the white East Asian gap, may also have partially genetic causes. I then address the sensitive question of whether public acknowledgement or suppression of these findings is best social policy. The durable, diverse, and widespread evidence against the environment-only theory is now so strong that continued adherence to that theory as the only publicly accepted explanation for test score gaps may be unviable and counterproductive. I can read. My mama would be proud. If he, I will tell you this: if he uses the word promulgated one more time, I was gonna be quite flustered. All right, so explain that while I go into source 9. Now you said you got 12 sources, right?
Yeah. We can fly
Okay,
through it,
so
but
that's this. I'm gonna be pulling up 9. Take a couple seconds and explain that. Logic, if you could take care of the chat, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. What this paper
I got to
actually.
mute so
No. I'm saying just like look at the comments in the chat. Let him talk, but you look at the comments in the chat or respond if they got questions or something in the chat. Go ahead, Feti.
But y'all notice, chat, people who are watching, y'all notice what I'm doing. Instead of me giving my opinion, I'm giving both sides of an argument and showing the different perspectives of said scholars, right? Now, this guy who made this article, he just unloads the clip in his opinion. Like, he's basically made a lot of interesting statements in that paper that actually echoed what Razib Khan said in regards to scientists tiptoeing, not warning. The fact that he even presented that in his paper, whether he should publish it or suppress it, and these new findings kind of shows that, yeah, this is an interesting conversation. You know what I mean? Because I think as time goes on, again, especially with certain political agendas, these conversations are only going to be amped up even more. You know what I mean? So we should be prepared for these conversations more, especially again when geneticists actually team up with policymakers and education departments. We're not really there yet, really, but the moment when things like polygenic scores are applied to young children and they're able to predict the educational attainment, probably their future job type or whatever, that's going to be an interesting dynamic. You know what I mean? So yeah, those scholars and a lot of papers like that, a lot of them just leave it all out there and say yes, based off our findings in these papers, yes, it has some genetic component. Notice how he say yes, it is environmental, but to say in these times where we have data and genetic tools for us to get a better picture, he basically said the only environmental theory is basically, he didn't say asinine, but he said basically, come on, bro, really? That theory in
Now who is it
2024?
that said that? Who is this? Who is it that said that?
What do you mean?
Like who is it? Like who? You're saying he said or he said? Is this like a respected scholar or who?
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
is
These are
that?
these are these people who I'm uploading. They deal strictly with intelligence testing and psychometrics and things like that. Like I have so many sources showing that same theme. I could send them all, but we gotta get through the
Yeah, we
show.
got,
But
and then we
I
don't
just
have to do only this. We
But
don't
yeah, I
have to
just
only
wanted
do
to
this.
show what certain scholars are saying, like the fact again that he's saying like, yo, these findings go against the all environmental theory, and also on top of that, he's saying that, you know, damn, should I suppress this data or publish it is kind of interesting to me. So
Okay.
if you could, I want to also, because that theory that he posed, the biogeographic
And what is
ancestry
he? Just
variation.
do me a favor. Say his
Oh,
name.
the scholar in that paper.
Right. So what do you want me to do?
I wanted to show again how, because based off what he just said, he reiterated what Murray is stating. He's basically saying the biogeographic variation plays a part into IQ. So it's crazy how scholars and new articles that's being published, some of them are echoing a hint at what Murray said in the 90s. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
Okay.
now
And
what I
that's the
want to do, what I want to do
wait.
now is
What you want me to do?
want to show a clip of that, Sam Harris.
All right. So this was, just so we're clear. That was number 8. Number 9 isn't Sam Harris. Number 9 is a another paper. So is
What is that?
what number is Sam Harris?
On the video it says like Sam Harris at the bottom.
Okay.
So you
Okay.
should,
Okay.
yeah.
Give me one second. Because number 10 is Ploman.
Yep. That's what I want to close with. I want to close with, okay, I gave out the people who support mostly environment, others who are hinting at genetics, but you also have others who are incorporating an interplay and acknowledging at a young age socio-economic or environmental factors are actually stronger. But as you get older with age, the genetic aspect actually takes over more. So it's people who are incorporating the interplay and showing exactly at certain ages when, whether it's environmental or genetic, which is more prevalent or stronger, if that makes sense. So I think that's important as well to highlight. I'm just
Okay.
giving all different perspectives of scholars. I'm not giving my opinion on anything.
Okay. The Sam Harris video. Before we started, we listed all the videos you sent in the drive. Is that number 12?
No.
What
Oh yeah,
number
that
is
is number 12. Yeah, it is.
it?
Yeah,
Starts with
it
like a
is.
female voice. It says why schools of the future?
Oh no, that's not it.
No,
The
it's not.
video literally says Sam Harris at the bottom.
No, I
And
see it in the Discord. It's just not listed in here. Just keep
oh, it's
talking.
all
Give me
good.
one
Oh
second.
yeah, okay,
Give
it's
me
all
one
good.
second.
You don't necessarily have to play that clip.
No,
What
no,
you can.
I want you to no. Just keep talking. I'll figure it
Okay.
out. I'll figure it out.
As I'm seeing, you have scholars such as Sam Harris. You have economists like Glenn Lowry. All who get a lot of flack from certain people who again have a certain political ideology. What these people are saying is that, okay, you can disagree with Murray if you want to, right? But they're saying that most of the flack is politically based and is not based in science, right? So it's an interesting thing to, again, me as a person who's trying to get the truth, it's like, damn, if you see scholars fighting amongst each other, how exactly can you find a certain consensus, right? Because there are a lot of people, and I agree to an extent, there are a lot of people who send sources debunking Charles Murray, and I can agree with that to an extent. But again, if I can find scholars who are credible, who are posting the opposite of that, and they're giving extensive and descriptive data, all I can do is take everything into account, right? So this is where I think what Sam Harris talks about is where the political outrage for these findings, right, are being established. For example, a lot of people who read that paper, or who may read that paper that y'all just showed, may.
I can't hear you if you're talking. Hits. I'm trying to pull up this. I can hear you now. I can hear your background. I can't hear you talking.
Okay.
I can't find this. I see it in the Discord. How do I share the Discord? How do I share the Discord video? Because it's not in the drive. That's. Can you find it on YouTube real quick? Wherever you had it at.
Yeah, I don't know. Yes, I don't know the title of the YouTube of the title of it, but it's all good. It's all good. You don't have to.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. Go to Hits. Can you take this Sam Harris video labeled number 12 in the Discord? Can you put it in the Google Drive or come on here and share it? However you would do it. What else do you want me to share while we got it? Go ahead.
Remember the paper that you said there was another one before the Sam Harris? You can post that paper. I don't know which. I sent a lot of.
You said that the paper before that was number 9.
And what's
it
the
was
title
genetic and environmental influences on cognition across development and context.
Okay, yeah, we can hold off on that because that's the last part of the show where I want to.
Okay, and then you got a video with Robert Plomin, genetics and education
in the bell curve,
and then you have another. What is that?
Okay, yeah, that's it right there.
Okay, Hits is playing that. Okay,
but yeah, before you play it, he's basically going to talk about again the outrage that most people give to these scholars who he feels is doing work non-biasedly and doesn't have a racial attitude. What he's saying is that it's not good that the outrage isn't based in science. So yeah, he's gonna break it down.
Okay, this is Sam Harris. I'm definitely gonna because he will strike your page. 1 second. That's Sam Harris. Google him if you don't know who that is, but you will not see his face. You can hear his voice.
So what happened to Murray, as far as I can tell, has had nothing to do with errors of scholarship, of which undoubtedly there must be some, or for the way he's conducted himself since, or for his personal motives for discussing these topics in the first place. Rather, his scapegoating has been entirely the result of his having merely discussed differences in human intelligence at all. Now, it's certainly true that the definitions of both intelligence and race are open for debate, to some degree. And there can be cultural influences in the concepts we use that we don't totally understand. But the efforts to invalidate the very notions of general intelligence and race have been wholly unconvincing from a psychometric and biological point of view, and are obviously motivated by a political discomfort in talking about these things, on points about which there is virtually no scientific controversy. Be clear about.
Okay, so now Sam Harris, I was introduced to Sam Harris when we were having the free will conversation with Logic and Marcus. I picked up a lot of his information. I found it very easy to digest. He broke down the free will conversation, determinism, and what was the other one? Logic, determinism, and
compatibilism.
Compatibilism, correct. And he broke it down in a way that I could digest it, I could understand it. So what was he trying to say in that particular video? Because I want to be clear with you about something real quick before we go any further. We in the home stretch. We got about 20 minutes left before Chef go live. Shouts to the Carnivorous Podcast, Pseudo Killers, and everybody else. What is this is going to be critiqued. It's going to be chopped up. It's going to be clipped. What? So just I want your interpretation of this information. What do you think Sam Harris is saying right there? Explain it to me like I'm a child.
What I said earlier in regards to having a political outburst that's not rooted in scientific inquiry, and what he said was what Murray broke down from a scholarly standpoint isn't necessarily controversial in scientific fields, but the fact that he gets false titles put on him, he gets such flack, and it's okay if you disagree with him. But what Sam Harris just said, if anyone's watching, it's clear that he said like it's a lot of flack and critique that's not based in facts and data. It's more so political agendas, like I spoke of earlier. Oh, he's a racist. Anybody, just take Charles Murray out of it. Any person who deals with psychometrics and intelligence, the mere fact that they discuss differences, they're racist. Not the genetic component, the mere fact they bring up score differences in general, that scholar is considered racist, and now they're at risk of losing their career, whether it's going to certain lectures, getting bombarded, all of that. That's what Murray went through. At certain universities, he went through all of that. A lot of scholars, whether you think they had bad intentions or not, they say out of their mouths they had good intentions and they want ultimately resolutions for this data, and why they put it out. But the world thinks otherwise. A lot of people, so they kind of mess up their careers, and I think that's unfortunate.
Can is it possible we can play that? It was real short. Can we play that one more time? I know it's. I don't, if you don't feel comfortable, I get it.
Yeah, we play it again. Play it again. Yeah.
No, I'll play it again, and then I was gonna let you talk for a second, but I want to bring this home because we are an hour and 30 minutes in, and I told Chef, he's got to do the after party, so I want to respect that. What is the next source you want me to pull up while I'm playing this video?
I wanted to pull up
in the bell curve.
Now that we got
So-
both sides established in regards to what scholars say, oh, it's environmental. Other scholars saying, oh, it is a form of genetics, and Charles Murray may not have been all the way off. Now what I want to do is incorporate a new paradigm, meaning, okay, take race out of it. Let's look at what behavioral geneticists say and how certain, even earlier when we were talking about equality, right? What if equality can be met via through genetic or program intervention? Remember I was talking about earlier how, for example, what if we're in a society to where a geneticist teams up with educational departments, right? And they give your child, a 5-year-old child, a polygenic score, and they can predict certain outcomes probably later on in life. What geneticists can do is actually create programs and actually expedite that process. So it's basically looking at the trajectory of a young student's educational attainment, using certain scores to have a certain predictive power and create programs that could maximize that child's, cap or potential. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So this is where it gets tricky. As a black parent, I think a lot may be offended. For example, if a expert was to do a test or whatever on their child and they may not get the answer they was looking for, but they're offering services, potentially whether it's, extra programs after school, creating things to maximize the potential of every student. I don't think the world is ready for that, because you're going to have parents that say, not my son, my daughter. What you said? What about my, you know what I mean? So again, when
that's why
policy,
that's the are we choosing ignorance over progress? Are we so offended by what it could be, not what it actually is, but are we so offended by what these studies are saying that we're not willing to use it to our benefit? We'll just basically classify it as racist, essentially.
Right.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna play this Sam Harris. And what's the next thing you need me to pull up?
I wanted you to pull up the source dealing with the environment, and that you see that that little chart that has it showing the gene
It's a chart
environment
at the
from
bottom, correct?
yeah, yep, that one, yep. And I
Okay.
wanted to show specifically the adolescent environmental genetic component and how through certain studies they found an interesting correlation. So we can hear Sam Harris again real quick and see what he said.
Okay. I see Chef and Sosa are preparing. Are you gonna go? Are you gonna go on the panel on the after party, or are you just gonna let them cook, wake up, and deal with it?
No, they can go ahead. I'm in the mix, man. I still got some shit to do once I'm done with this. But again, man, if you can make a show and critique it, cool. But again, y'all notice I haven't given my opinion on anything. I'm just laying out historical context and different sides of the argument from scholars. So
Okay.
This in the bell curve. So what happened to Murray, as far as I can tell, has had nothing to do with errors of scholarship, of which undoubtedly there must be some, or for the way he's conducted himself since, or for his personal motives for discussing these topics in the first place. Rather, his scapegoating has been entirely the result of his having merely discussed differences in human intelligence at all. Now, it's certainly true that the definitions of both intelligence and race are open for debate, to some degree. And there can be cultural influences in the concepts we use that we don't totally understand. But the efforts to invalidate the very notions of general intelligence and race have been wholly unconvincing from a psychometric and biological point of view, and are obviously motivated by a political discomfort in talking about these things, on points about which there is virtually no scientific controversy. Be clear about this in the bell curve.
Okay.
I heard it.
So what bothered? I mean, go ahead real quick because I want to let them bring it home. What's bothering you? What's the issue?
I don't think that Sam was very. I don't think he was on one side or the other. Right?
So it's a 1 minute clip. It's a 1 minute clip. So you're not
right.
going to get
Well,
context.
he starts out by saying that he acknowledges that the guy would have had to make some scientific errors to reach this conclusion. I mean, and everything he says after that is kind of in the middle and not necessarily leaning towards one side or the other. But the one thing it sounded like he was 100% clear about is that he knew the guy made some scientific errors. But that,
that's for the after party. We're gonna move
yeah,
along. All right.
and we acknowledge that, but you notice that he said a lot of outrage that is directed to Murray is strictly political. You didn't get that part?
Mm-hmm.
So that ties into what Razib Khan said. That ties into what that paper I just posted in regards to scholars possibly being bullied, scared, or whatever to publish certain data based off the fact that they're going to be labeled a racist just by merely discussing it. So I want to let it be known, like, again, I'm not a Murrayite, quote unquote. I've said a million times, I don't fully agree with Murray. It's interesting that he brings up biogeographic diversity because, as we saw, there are independent papers outside of Murray who say the same thing, and they even conducted a survey, and those intelligent researchers said that it's genetic, right? So that's my thing. Like, I'm willing to disagree with Murray because, again, I take environment and culture into account, like Thomas Sowell said. But at the same time, just because I disagree with Murray doesn't mean I'm going to call that man a racist. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, this source right here.
Indigenous black man, like I said, I'm a parent. That's what made me kind of want to get involved in this. I heard them talking about it in the Discord, and that's part of the reason why I'm doing this, because that's my main concern is about the children. They're being misdiagnosed per se. But I'm gonna let y'all do all the heavy lifting. I'm just here to present the information, and y'all do with it what you will. All right. So what you want me to do with this?
This right here is an interesting source because, like I said earlier, in regards to what exactly is taking place at certain ages of individual. So, if you could you read exactly what it says in this article?
Okay, so it starts off: genetic and environmental influences on cognition across development and context. Developmental changes in heritability. Children are born with all of their genes, and they experience an ever wider array of environmental inputs as they develop. I want to say that again. Children are born with all of their genes, and they experience an ever wider array of environmental inputs as they develop. One might therefore expect that genetic variation will account for less and less variation in psychological outcomes with age. However, in contrast to this intuitive hypothesis, genetic influences on cognition actually increase substantially with age. Aggregated results from 11 unique longitudinal twin and adoption studies of cognition are shown in Figure 1. In infancy, genes account for less than 25% of the variation in cognition, whereas the shared family environment accounts for approximately 60%. By adolescence, however, genes account for approximately 70% of the variation in cognition, and the shared environment accounts for virtually no variation. These age-related patterns were identified in cross-sectional analyses originally by McCartney, Harris, and Bernieri, 1990, and McGew, Bouchard, Iacono, and Lycan, 1993, and more recently by Howarth in 2009. So, what is this saying while I still have it up on the screen? Explain it to me like I'm a
What
child.
this is doing, right? And like how we say we care about the children, right? You know, the next generation. This study alone is very insightful, right? Because it's giving you specific percentage distributions, especially at a young age. Like you said, they say it's 60% environmental, right? When you're younger, but as you get older, that genetic component takes over. So when I talked about earlier, like in the Discord, I was saying how heritability, the older you get, according to scholars, right? Even though
Now,
Wiki
what
was
is heritability for people that don't know?
heritability is what you acquire from your biological parents or whatever. It's a thing that's passed down, right? Now when you look at that, that's very interesting because, like it says, environment does play a key role early in the game for children. But notice how you get older, basically you find environments as you get older based off certain genetic propensities dealing with intelligence and how they're shown. Like if you could do you see like exactly like below where it says genes, family environment, like do you see the you know what I mean? Like do you see it?
No,
If
I
y'all
see.
can see it who's watching it, that's very insightful information right there.
So now, what is your take? What is your take? I know you're not giving your opinion. These are just the sources. And I know I keep putting you on the spot, but I got one before we finish the show, I definitely got a question I got to ask. But but how do you feel? I know it's facts over feelings. I get it. But when
Yo, a
you
lot of
see
this
these
shit is very
things, this
depressing
don't
reading.
terrify you? Like it don't. Okay.
Yes. Is I'm very uneasy reading a lot of this shit, right? Because
I know it's science, but this is
like the fact that, you know, if you read something like that, naturally, you automatically go back to your personal life, right? And you automatically go back to, okay, certain pivotal moments of my life when I was young, elementary school, and again, high school, the environment. So it's like, it kind of gives you a good indication of maybe giving you some self-reflection in regards to why the older you get, you may seek out certain environments. You know what I mean? So I think it's very that finding is very interesting. And when you look at the environmental aspect, especially when they're younger, I think solutions can be applied strictly off of data like this. Take race out of it. I'm just saying every individual. It's clear. And even when you look it up, take race out of it. I'm just talking about IQ and genetics. Sources have shown that it's at least a 50% genetic influence. You know what I mean? We're not talking about race. We're just talking about humans, genetics, and IQ, right? So
okay, hold on. Let me just because there was some contention as to what heritability meant. Heritability is a statistical measurement that estimates how much of the variation in a trait within a population is due to genetic factors. Range. Heritability estimates range from 0 to 1 and are often expressed as a percentage. The meaning, a heritability estimate close to 1 indicates a trait that is highly heritable, while an estimate close to 0 indicates environmental factors are more influential. Examples: heritability can be used to estimate the degree to which genetic factors contribute to variation in traits like height, eye color, intelligence, and disorders like schizophrenia and autism spectrum disorder. For example, human height is estimated to have a heritability of around 0.8, meaning genetic variations are responsible for most of the variety in human height. Heritability is a group statistic, not an estimate of genetic influences for an individual. It's a central concept in biology that helps us understand the relationship between nature and nurture. Okay, go ahead. While you talking, what's the next source? We should be coming towards the end, right? What's the next source? Feti, that you want me to pull up. Go ahead, Logic, while Feti is getting his microphone in order. I can't hear you either.
Yeah, I don't know what to say right now. You know, I'm gonna let the man finish getting his point across.
I don't know. He just got disconnected. I don't know. This is interesting, but it's terrifying in the same breath.
It's definitely terrifying. It's terrifying. It's terrifying.
Yeah. And then honestly, with some of these papers, because I mean, we're doing this conversation. It's a pretty heavy conversation to do all in 2 hours. I'm sure we're going to get killed on every platform or whatever, but I don't mind having these kinds of conversations when it comes to this, because the one thing I don't want to do is twofold. I don't ever want to look at my child and say, my son, just because he was African American or black or whatever social construct you want to talk about, that he, just his genes alone, he has a 40% less chance. Because you tell your kids they could do anything, they could be anything, they can accomplish anything. And I think that I want this to be disproven. I want it to be wrong. Like, I want someone to find me something else. But I do agree with Feti on this topic. It's one of the things that has always been a challenge when everybody keeps talking about science and scientific literacy and this, that, and the third. Because what happens is a lot of times in these conversations, hold on, Feti. A lot of times in these conversations, what happens is I've noticed that when they have these conversations, and I mean anybody, nobody in particular, and they talk about scientific this and scientific that, or, you got to pay attention to the data, and the data is what it is facts over feelings. When those facts don't match people's bias, their confirmation bias, they don't want to talk about it at that point. And I think that's the good thing about science to me. It's a lot of different sides. They do their debates. I don't know the process, but in the same token, what I like about science is that, it forces you to face some things that, when your feelings is involved, that you don't necessarily, you got to face it regardless. You got to at least have the conversation, whether it's right or wrong. And I appreciate Feti for bringing this information this evening. All right, what is the other information while you're talking? What is the other information we bring up? What numbers?
The video of Catherine Page Harden, where she talks about how genes will affect education in the future.
So genetics and intelligence?
No, I think that's the one from that's actually
from Plomin is genetics. Plomin is genetics and education. And then there's another one that says your kids and regression. So which one do you want me to play? Because those are only 2 videos left.
Yeah. Play the one where it says the Catherine Page Harden one. It says
it doesn't say her name. That's what I'm saying. Is it genetics and intelligence or Robert Plomin genetics and education?
Genetics and intelligence. That was actually from one of I think his name is Steve Hsu. He actually runs like one of the most popular genomic labs in the world, and he
what's his name?
Steve Hsu.
Okay, hold on one second. Steve Hsu, HSU, I'm assuming.
This is
would this be 11 or 12?
I think it's 11 if I'm not mistaken.
So it's not heritability and linearity.
Oh yeah, that's it right there. Yeah, the heritability and linearity. Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I just want to know which one to pull up. And I think you got one more after this, right?
Yeah, and that's it. Yep.
Okay. Thank y'all for being so patient. We're doing this for y'all, just informational. This is just information. It's not one of those just random shows or just talk. We're just trying to get the information out. So you said it's number 11, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, anybody watching
this one right here?
Anybody watching, again, this is like Brad said, just a show where information is given out. I try my best not to put my personal opinion in it. I want to just show the stage in regards to the environmental talking points and what people use from a genetic talking point and things that we could take by reading opposite sides of the argument and spectrum of what these scholars are saying. So yeah, this guy is this is a Google conference. So the fact that they're talking about genetics and intelligence at a Google conference, I think is interesting. But, yeah,
this is at a Google conference.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna play it.
I hope I conveyed to you a little bit about how we operationalize intelligence. So we give these funny little tests. We give them to large numbers of people. We look at the correlations. We define some metric, which we call G. Okay, that measured quantity seems to have predictive power in the general population with respect to divorce, incarceration, being on welfare. It has predictive power about that, and it even seems to have some predictive power in the tail when you're asking, well, is this person going to be a great biologist or an average biologist? Let me now come to the question of genes. Okay, so G is highly heritable, and the way we know that is from looking at situations in which, for example, you have identical twins, you have identical twins that are raised in the same family, you have identical twins who are raised in very different families. For example, one family could be a family where the father is a coal miner and the mother never finished elementary school. The other family could be a family in which both mother and father are medical doctors. Okay, and you can ask, well, under the influence of those very different environments, how much will those twins who had identical genetic information, how different will their IQs be when they're 20? Okay, and pretty large statistics studies have been done on those kinds of situations. And the upshot is that the correlation between the IQ scores of twins, monozygotic means identical twins, the IQ correlation between twins reared together is not very different from the correlation between twins reared apart. And from that, we can extract the portion of variation that's due to genes and the portion of variation that's due to the variations in the environment. Yes? That's correct. So people who are critical of these results, they always want to bring the heritability numbers down by saying, well, it could be that the neonatal environment is the most important one. Because we're now able to do specific genotyping of individuals, we can go beyond this old-fashioned way of doing the studies. We can look at a large population of people. There was actually some results released just on this in the last week or two. I don't know if you saw it in the paper, in the newspaper, but you can look at large sets of people and you can take pairs of people in that population and you can plot their genetic similarity, that is how many base pairs they have divergence between each other. So how similar are they genetically? And these are unrelated people. These are like random people picked out of the population. But how similar is he to him? How similar are these two people? So you can plot for each pair of people in the study their genetic similarity and you can plot their IQ similarity. And you can extract using that method the heritability that was also extracted through this other method, and they agree. So that suggests that the claim that it is the neonatal environment that's most important and that's what's giving these large correlations, that isn't present in this other study, so it suggests that's not the case.
So again, when I watch certain scholars break shit down, they're literally I see a collision course of scholars who have that mentality, who's willing to say, based off these findings, preconceived notions of it being mostly environment, that's not what it says currently. You know what I mean? He was real clear on what he said. You know what I mean? So that leaves a person like me puzzled. Like, where do I go from there when I see a group of scholars who's adamantly against that, and then I see other scholars who's reinforcing a lot of what people are saying regarding genetic components of IQ. So it leaves me confused. You know what I mean? So
Okay, so what else you got? What
but yeah,
else do you?
the last thing that I wanted to send was the last thing dealing with Robert Plomin. He's a behavioral geneticist, just to give again another perspective of a scholar who incorporates and understanding. Because again, we're not talking about race right now, but we're just talking about simple genetic influences on intelligence and how policy will be molded as a result of that. So Robert Plomin actually makes some interesting points as well regarding uh, genetics and intelligence directly. And that's
Okay.
the show, man. I was a little unprepared, but I tried to give out context the best way I could, present both sides of the argument. Again, people who say it's environmental, say it's racism, and how dare you bring up genetics, and other scholars who are open to the idea of it possibly being genetic, and also things like this regarding policy and genetics and education that just applies to everyone. Forget race, just talking about individually. So yeah, I think I try to again keep my opinion out of it. I think a lot of this information is important because again, I'm solution based, and I don't want for the next 20 years for African American children to still finish last. So to the people out there who gonna call me a racist or whatever, I'm pseudo or whatever, my intentions are good. I want to look for solutions, but in order to find solutions, you gotta quote unquote run up that hill that's uncomfortable, that's gonna make you tired, that's not that you don't want to run up that hill. It's like a sprint, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, so
I have the only video I have left is the Catherine video. That's
okay,
the
yeah, we
only
can show
video
that.
I
Yeah,
have.
yep.
Yeah, that's the only video I have left.
Catherine Page Harden is a geneticist, and she's actually very adamant on the whole. We need to create tools and policies. It's not more so every kid is created equal, but we need to give every kid the opportunity to maximize their potential. So she makes some interesting points in her video.
Okay, and
Fair is not everyone getting the same thing. Fair is everyone getting what they need to succeed. Genetics is a tool for seeing what do people need to move away from this idea of we can achieve fairness just by treating every student exactly the same. Art Goldberger was an economist in the 1970s, and he was very critical of the idea that genetics meant that something couldn't be intervened on. And his classic example was eyeglasses. That if you have a genetic predisposition towards poor eyesight, we've invested in developing a technology that can help you see, and it's an environmental one, and we apply it for as long as people need. We don't give it to them for just one day and be like, well, you've had your intervention, like, why are you still complaining? People get to keep their eyeglasses. They get to have a sustained intervention. I love the Goldberger example because it both shows that genetically influenced things can be changed by the environment, but also reminds us that the environments might need to be sustained. They might not be able to be these kind of one-time nudges. A lot of researchers, a lot of educators, a lot of policymakers have great intentions, and yet our ability to execute, our ability to actually pull off interventions that make a positive difference is really disappointing. Most of the things that we try in education, even when they're very well funded, make absolutely no difference in children's lives. So that says that we need to improve our basic science. All of our policies, all of our interventions are based on a model of what causes what in the world. We have a model of how the world works, and then we tinker with it. If our tinkering doesn't work, that suggests that our model of the world is wrong. So I think genetics can be used as a tool to improve our understanding of the way the world works, which ultimately can improve our ability to intervene in that way.
So yeah, man, I think what she said is very interesting in regards to how she broke down that most people think that you bring up genetics, it can't be fixed, but she gave a lot of examples. And you notice how she said the main objective is to give each child their personal, give them and maximize their potential, right? So I think genetics, again, when policy comes into play and when science improves itself as time gets on, I just think it's interesting when, again, you apply tests to children.
If you're talking, we can't hear you. And this is in closing, y'all. Chef, I think Chef's gonna be doing the after party on Carnivorous Podcast. Go ahead, Feti. I can hear you now.
Oh yeah, no doubt. But yeah, I just wanted to give a brief show, man, to ultimately
Close.
highlight.
No, take us out. No, take us out in closing. Like I said, I wanted this to be just you, so it can be looked at and you can get your information off, and then that way at a bare minimum, your stance is clear. Take us out in closing and a brief whatever you want to say. And Chef, as soon as I log off, I'll text you. Well, how young I text you? Just go ahead and start your after party. Go ahead, Feti.
So yeah, the reason why again I wanted to bring this up is because I care about the betterment of my people and definitely the babies and the next generation, and I'm very nervous. As time goes on and society becomes more complex, one thing I don't want is because when you fall behind in things, that has real life like ramifications. So I don't want a society to where as time goes on, again, the demand for jobs requires certain cognitive abilities, right? And I don't want a situation to where our people are turning a blind eye to possible tools of science that can possibly bridge these gaps and ultimately further are us being behind. It's like I'm seeing where society is going is very technological, innovative, science based. And I just don't want certain minorities or communities to be left back so far behind that we're dealing with not stone age, like this is just hyperbole, a stone age individual trying to uh, navigate in a society that's very complex. So uh, with this information, I want to be solution based.
If you're talking, we can't hear you. Your mic cut out.
But yeah, I was saying ultimately my intentions are good and I want to find solutions to change these gaps because like y'all just saw, Catherine Page Harden even said the funding that's been allocated to education hasn't really done anything. Y'all heard what she just said. So she's saying maybe we need to reshape how we look at science and the world to make change. And that's my overall goal as well.
Okay, I just spoke to Chef. All right, cool. I just spoke to Chef. Now that you got your information out, Chef's not doing an after party, but what I'm gonna do is, because I was advertising the after party, I'm gonna stick around for a little while longer. You don't have to stick around if you want. I'm gonna open it up to the chat. I know that's not what you was trying to do, but as long as you're completely done, you got all your information out. I'm gonna open it up for people to come up and say what they want. But
Yeah,
Chef's not doing the after party.
I'm gonna head out, but one thing I do want people to think about in the chat. Now that you've seen different points or different sides of the argument, what possible solutions can we use to bridge these gaps and help these babies out? Let's be solution based and not be emotionally charged based off the causation of the disparities. Let's focus on the solutions of these disparities versus the causation. So peace to everybody. It's been dope. And
Yeah, I
peace.
appreciate it. I appreciate this, Fetty. From when we first met in the Discord, and then and now talking in this Discord, and then knowing a little bit about your background, working with the babies, working with young men on their scores and getting them to where they need to be. I know that your intent is just. I know that but I also know, what's that saying? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. So don't worry about what people gonna say. Don't worry about you. You did what you came in. You did what you had to do. You got your information out. That was the whole point of the show. So it's gonna be some critique. Some of it scathing. Some of it might be positive. Who knows? But like I said, it's not you got it out. It's on the bigger and better things. I challenge you. Start your channel, bro. There are millions of people you know, like you said, he spoke. One of these clips was at a Google conference, so that means that there are people that want to hear this. There are people that want to further study this. So I would challenge you to don't stop, no matter what is said. Don't stop. You know, learn more, get better. You know, you said you're about the new information. Keep following new information and keep fighting, brother. Okay.
No doubt. Peace to y'all, brother.
All right, brother. Peace to you.
All right, man.
All right, so the link is in the chat. Chef is not doing an after party. I'm gonna stay around for a little while. I think it was mission accomplished. I think he got all the information out that he wanted to get out. What do you think, Logic? The link is in the chat. Hit the link. Come up. Go ahead, Logic. What you got to say? And Hits, if you are in here, come up and talk for a bit if you don't mind. If not, I'm out.
So from what I can tell, right, Avzeeb Khan is not officially considered a quack or fringe as far as information goes. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to genetics, he is credible as far as his own research. Now, in this particular instance, we're not talking about his research. He's giving his opinion on somebody else's research. Mm-hmm. So I'm taking that with a grain of salt. You know, whereas I would assume that he is a qualified person to review the data, but you know, he is still not the end all be all just because he was able to read the data, right? And Sam Harris is another person who I'm familiar with. He's not considered a quack at all. He's actually very respected within the field, and I think his answer made a lot of sense as far as understanding that he knows that there's going to be some mistakes within the methodology, within the information, within the study, and not necessarily leaning too far to the left, but, you know, referring to it as something that we might need to consider or, you know, could be, you know, looked at further, right? So with that being said, I have established just by those two people that this is neither completely worthless or 100% refuted, right? Now, with that being said, this is key. The standard that I'm aware of comes from the Human Genome Project. Now, the Human Genome Project, a way that you can summarize a part of it is that it makes a statement about that that all humans are 99.9% the same. Now, within that 0.1% of all humans, you are going to find more variations within a population than you will find between populations. I think that's a very, very key statement because we're talking about the bell curve as basically showing that there's this huge disparity between populations. When the Human Genome Project in 2003, I'm assuming we're talking about a much bigger budget, much bigger sample size. I'm assuming I'll go that far, but they're completely talking about something totally different, in which one experiment that's widely considered fringe, the bell curve experiment, is basically saying the complete opposite of an experiment that has set the standard of genetics moving forward. You get what I'm saying? So I absolutely wouldn't put too much stock in the fringe argument, and I would start my premise with the Human Genome Project that says that there's more variation within populations than there are going to be between populations. You get what I'm saying? So just with that information alone, what he presented sounds scary, but it doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like the data behind it is concrete enough for me to be worried.
So now I got a question for you. I challenged Feti to do the show because I really got tired of all the arguments, the name calling, and all this back and forth. And at a bare minimum, he was able to get his information and get it out to the world. So now I challenge everyone else. I don't want no passive aggressive stances. I don't want any, don't be halfway. I'm sure this is going to get critiqued or to be ignored, which would be just fine. As long as my job is just to get Feti out here, get his information out. I got a question for you. Do you agree with it or don't you?
Don't agree. So
No. You don't agree with. You don't agree with what?
Okay.
You don't agree with any of this. So he put out sources. He played videos. He put papers out. Do you agree?
Hey, okay. Hey, and Chief X, man, shout out to you, man. Keep doing your thing out there. I'm definitely not no hater, bro. But I mean, I'm trying to accomplish two things.
Haskell said you sipping that Ripple. See, that's yeah. See, this is why I wanted people to do an after party.
In my glass,
I want to see who's gonna stand on their square. I mean, I know Unc and them. If Unc decides to look at it, or Pseudo Killers, or Chef, or Sosa World, whoever looks at it, I know that they'll actually present information, sources, all of that. I get it, but sometimes, with me as a layman, I just want to hear, because. We have some of us have children, we're fathers. I just want to know, do you think, based on if there was a scientific study that showed you that Black people are 40 to 60% inferior than other people just on genetics, other races, whatever, however you want to word it, y'all take the correct words. I'm just speaking. Knowing that there's scientific racism, knowing that there's, even the SAT test, and these are conversations I've had with Feti about the biasness, the inherent biasness or whatever. If you found a study like that, would you just ignore the science or what would you do?
No, I wouldn't ignore the science. I wouldn't ignore the science, and the science is going to be based on data. Now, however, right, that there's so many other questions as a layman that we might even forget to ask, right? And let me just finish what my comment was to Chief X, because real talk, like I'm trying to give credence and give credit because he clearly looked up a lot of information. He clearly went through his thing, and I think somewhere in there he might have had like this epiphany, like, oh wow, this is really saying this, and then so he kind of like heard this narrative, and then he might run across some other words that may or may not be as familiar to him when it comes to like heredity or whatever that word was right there. I went and Googled it in real time, and it's talking about within populations. Now, in order for it to apply the way he would want it to apply, he would have to be talking about something that's between populations, right? So when you can't like, that's a very small difference in the definition of a word, but that one small difference could change the entire way the sentence is translated, right? So that like that last video that we were talking about with the guy from the Google conference, right? He's talking about within populations. So there's nothing that he's talking about within populations can be proving something that should happen between populations. It's a two totally different conversations.
Yeah, and this is where you're way beyond. This is what I mean. I was probably the perfect person to do the interview, but as far as discussing the actual information, Feti said when he decides to make his channel that he's going to get experts and things like that, and that's more along the lines of what Unc and them do. I respect him for it. That's more what Feti's going to try to do. Chef's going to come with his opinion, and I appreciate Chef's opinion because he's a father, and he literally just says like, this is some tough information to digest. So basically, you said you agree. So I have a challenge for you.
No, I didn't say that. I said
you don't. You disagree, right? You said you disagree.
Right.
So this is my challenge to you. The video is on our channel. I challenge you. What's your schedule like next couple of days?
We we got some work we're doing. But I mean, I can be listening, to my headphones and try to collect some data and do some
I
stuff
want you
like
to
that.
I want you to clip the show. Can you clip the show?
Want me to clip it up? I
want you to clip the show.
I got
and
you.
the reason why I want you to clip the show, put the clips out and here in clips, so no more than like 5 to 7 clips, nothing huge. Pause. But what I want you to do though is I want you to the man got up here, gave his information, gave a show.
Shout out to him for that.
Shout out to him for that. I
And,
want
and
you
that right there, that amount of effort right there deserves to be commended for. So it can't just all be just because I disagree. Let me not also in the same breath commend him for going through all of that. So it can't be without both of those two things. So go ahead.
Are you on your laptop?
Yeah.
Can you share the screen and look up what Marcus was talking about? Chief X says, let's have a gentrification convo because black folk is confused about that. Gentrification is a good thing to any hood. Okay.
Guy Sinjic and Charles Murray.
Yeah, look up look that up and then let's read a little bit on it. The link is in the chat if y'all want to come up and talk. My job is done on this particular part. It was just to have Feti present his information. Now it's on y'all. What I will tell y'all is this though. If y'all only response is that Feti is a racist or Feti is a this or Feti is a that, then you missed the whole point of what it is we're trying to do. Just to spur conversation, have conversation. If you feel he's wrong, then say that. But I don't think you need to call him a racist or this or know nothing, a rookie, and all of this other stuff. If that's what you want to do, fine. It's your lips. You do, most people talk because they got lips. But at the end of the day, what I would challenge you to do is he presented his information. He presented sources. Go get yours. Do a show. Go on a panel. Chef is obviously going to go live tomorrow at some point. I'm pretty sure Social World is going to go live. Outside of that, I don't know. We're going to do a critique show of it because it's our content. And once again, Chef and Corey, thank you. I never say Corey enough when it comes to Carnivorous Podcast. Appreciate Chef and Corey. We're business partners, but it's always a privilege when we're able to go live on both channels when we have something we think is very poignant. It needs to get out to more people than just what we would touch. Pause. So what did you pull up what Marcus was talking about?
Yeah, I guess I'm having a hard time spelling it right, even if I'm using exactly what
it's in the chat. How can you
I use that and it's still giving me a correction, so I'm not sure if I'm pulling up exactly what he wants me to pull up here.
Hold on, let me see if I can find it. It says search why Razib Khan got fired. Hey, I don't work for you, Isonic. No, I'm just fucking with you, Isonic. Yeah, I'll look up some of this. I'll stay here for a little bit. Okay, here it is. Because for some reason on this, I can't get my chat GPT, and I have the 4. I don't want to use the regular. So dysgenic in Charles Murray. Okay, pull that up. I'll read it.
See it right here?
Click on that. Yeah, click that. Okay. Charles Murray, the fellow at American Enterprise Institute, has become one of the most influential social scientists in America using racist.
Racist. What?
Damn, yeah, the good thing about Marcus, he will literally go straight for the jugular. Don't mix words.
We ain't even got to the abstract. God.
Yeah, they ain't even get to the actual thing. Okay, so he says using racist pseudoscience and misleading statistics to argue that social inequality is caused by the genetic inferiority of the Black and Latino communities. Also, it's Latino also, women and the poor. Damn, he goes at all of them. Okay, so let me read this. Do me a favor. When you get a chance, give me the date on this. According to Murray, disadvantaged groups are disadvantaged because on average, they cannot compete with white men who are intellectually, psychologically, and morally superior. Murray advocates the total elimination of the welfare state, affirmative action, and the Department of Education, arguing, I already know what connection y'all gonna make with that, arguing that public policy cannot overcome the innate deficiencies that cause unequal social and educational outcomes. Scroll down on this. Keep going. I just want to see something. Okay, stop right there. Go back. Go back up. Okay, stop. So this is what he wrote. Scroll up just a little bit to that first thing above the bell curve, 1994. Okay, the professional, right here. Mm-hmm. The professional consensus is that the United States has experienced dysgenic pressures throughout either most of the century, the optimist, or all of the century, the pessimist. Women of all races and ethnic groups follow this pattern in similar fashion. There is some evidence that blacks and Latinos are experiencing even more severe dysgenic pressures than whites, which could lead to further divergence between whites and other groups in future generations. That's 1994. So okay, so is he the person that wrote the book, The Bell Curve? I don't know if the chat.
I think he's one of the people that did the experiment, and he might be one of the authors too.
Stop. No. Say that. I was saying stop on the page, but go ahead and keep talking.
Yeah. I know he was listed when I was looking it up on ChatGPT. His last name is listed with the study. So I'm not too sure who the author is, but it might be like the author might be publishing the work based on such and such. You know what I'm saying? Okay. But he's, even deeper. He's the one associated with the study, which,
Okay. All right. So, and after this, I want you to look at dysgenic. That's what I want you to do. I want you to look at
define dysgenic.
Yeah, define dysgenic. Okay. Try to imagine a presidential candidate saying in front of the cameras, one reason that we still have poverty in the United States is that a lot of poor people are born lazy. Damn.
God damn, that's a quote.
Jesus Christ.
He might be.
No, Jesus Christ. Now, okay, you cannot imagine it because that kind of thing cannot be said. And yet this unimaginable statement merely implies that when we know the complete genetic story, it will turn out that the population below the poverty line in the United States has a configuration of the relevant genetic makeup that is significantly different from the configuration of the population above the poverty line. This is not unimaginable. It is almost certainly true. I didn't get a chance to ask Feti the question. As we was putting together this show, I was looking at his text messages in the group chats are always hilarious when you look at them after the show. Like he gives a recap of the whole show. And I'm just reading these. They're killing me. This was the question I had for Feti. And Feti, if you can answer it in the Discord, and this is something I'll ask you. Heart of hearts, in your heart of hearts, is Charles Murray onto something that since they've changed race to ancestral populations, is he right? So now that it's not necessarily race science that Charles Murray is referencing, if you are going to change it from race science to ancestral populations to kind of remove the racial component, do you think that he's right in that case? I guess Feti would have to answer that question. I didn't get a chance to answer.
Right. But let's just acknowledge the monumental task of him debunking the Human Genome Project, which says the complete opposite of that. Right. It says you find the diversity within populations. Within populations, not between populations, which is exactly what that statement that you just said was, right? That there is these huge varieties between populations, right? So, that's just the big hurdle that he would have to overcome with data, and it doesn't sound like he's successfully done that because you haven't alleviated the factors of the external environment, it's how do you quantify the significance of the external environment? How do you put a percentage of how much the external environment is affecting you and your particular starting point as far as genes? Like, how do you remember one of the things that he put up there had percentages as far as the genes is 17% and your environment is 10%.
Right.
Your locations, and how do you do that under a microscope? Like looking at somebody's genetic material, how do you come up with a formula like that? And then, of course, test it against some other formula that could be better. Like I think there's a lot of questions. And then if you're talking about genes, what specific gene are you relating it to? Or is there a name for this particular gene? Can we isolate it? And there's a lot of questions that would have to be answered in order for that to be I guess from what I'm aware of, concrete. But there's some, just to put it politely, there seems to be a lot of speculation there, and his biases seem to be slanting him towards those speculations. See, I
Do me a favor, because I found it kind of strange that they called him a racist out the gate. Who wrote this? I want to know who wrote this.
Who is SPLC?
What is this from? Who is SPLC? Click our initiatives. No, click about us. Right here, up here. Click about us. Who is this? The SPLC is a catalyst for racial justice in the South and beyond, working in partnership with communities to dismantle white supremacy, strengthen intersectional movements, and advance the human rights of all people.
There's certainly
Scroll
not a
all the way up.
department, right?
Huh? What'd you
There's
say?
certainly not a science department.
Right. No, here we go. Yeah, they're not. This isn't scientific. This is civil rights lawyers. So civil rights lawyers Morris Dees and Joseph Levin Jr. Founded the SPLC in 1971 to ensure. I know who this is. Okay. To ensure that the promise of the civil rights movement became a reality for all. Since then, we won numerous landmark legal victories on behalf of the exploited, powerless, and forgotten. Our lawsuits. Okay, so I know who this is. So this is not. I'm not going to say that they are biased, but they're definitely not going to come in here.
And give
this isn't like a
that,
This isn't like a third party site that's just giving information specifically on him. Do me a favor. No. Let me share my screen real quick.
That's too far back. Okay.
No. I'm gonna share my screen real quick. I want you to. I'm tired of reading. You read real quick, and then we'll get out of here because I don't really have anything else. I hope people appreciate what Feti put out, and I appreciate that, Marcus. Marcus said he doesn't think he's racist, but you would probably be in the minority because that's you. Every time Feti starts talking, the first thing people come out with is that he's racist. And
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, I think at some point we have to, we as a people, or we're just human beings or black, however you want to put it, when somebody has an idea contrary to yours, unless they specifically come out and say, I'm doing this because I think black people are stupid. If the man is saying, I'm doing this because I work with the children, it's alarming, it's terrifying, at a bit, take them at face value, and then just present whatever you got. I would assume that that's how it goes. I'm not a genius on the subject, but I just want to look at this dysgenics real quick. So dysgenics,
I'll read it.
Okay, go ahead.
Dysgenics refers to any decrease in the prevalence of traits deemed to be either socially desirable or generally adaptive to their environment due to selective pressure, disfavoring their reproduction. In 1915, the term was used by David Starr Jordan to describe the supposed
deleterious
effects of modern warfare on group-level genetics, fitness because of its tendency to kill physical healthy men while preserving the disabled at home. Similar concerns had been raised by early eugenicists and social Darwinists during the 19th century and continue to play a role in scientific and public policy debates throughout the 20th century. More recent concerns about the supposed dysgenics effects in human populations have been advanced by controversial psychologist Richard Lynn, notably in his 1996 book, Dysgenics, Genetic Deterioration in Modern... Am I saying it wrong?
Yeah, no, go ahead. They get
deterioration in modern populations, which argue that the changes in selection pressures and decreased infant mortality since the Industrial Revolution have resulted in an increased propagation of deleterious traits and genetic disorders. Despite these concerns, genetic studies have shown no evidence of dysgenics effects in human populations.
Read that again.
Despite these concerns, genetic studies have shown no evidence of dysgenic effects in human populations.
I'm just reading it, bro. I'm just reading it, bro.
We just reading, man.
I'm just reading, bro. Go ahead. Reviewing
Lynn's book, The Scholar John R. Will Smith notes, overall, the most puzzling aspect of Lynn's alarming position is that the deterioration of average intelligence predicted by eugenicists has not occurred.
Okay, so the benefit to all of this conversation is this. To me, this is the benefit for me, and I'm gonna be selfish because I did the show.
Yes, sir.
Is I think per se, I think that if you rebut information with information, I think you're in a good place. If you're talking to someone, like say Feti presented his information, and your mind is closed, so all you're gonna do is just go find information to combat it, I think you're in a bad place. I think does that make sense? Like if unless the person talking to you is a card-carrying Klan member saying, I think that black people are less intelligent than everyone else, right? And then he starts presenting sources and this and that and this. If you choose to look at it after you punch him all about the face, if you choose to look at his sources and then combat it with sources, that's up to you. But if you got somebody else that's on a journey, like I tell you, Logic, all the time, that's what I appreciate about you with the pontification stuff. You're on a journey trying to figure it out. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to do this, but you're coming into all these conversations with an open mind. And that's what I appreciate about you, because that's a journey. It's not just a close, you can have a stop here, stop there, and do this. But I would challenge anybody to just go get information. I appreciated Marcus. Marcus challenged it with information. So, or we read this for information. And I think that statement that they put, that last sentence, was crazy in regards to it. And that book, and that quote was from the book by Fischbach, Carl Frederick, Niggerschmidt, Martin.
What?
Okay, so I'm just saying, all right, I'm reading this backwards. Okay, so Carl Frederick Fischbach and Martin Niggerschmidt in 2022, do the dumb get dumber and the smart get smarter. So that's where that source is, and that's where the source is from. And there go that word again, heritability of intelligence. So, I mean, what I would tell you is go look at Niggerschmidt book. And I love saying that. I'm definitely gonna find a way.
Never gonna leave this topic. It's gonna be referred. This whole thing can be under the umbrella of Niggerschmidt. Yep.
I promise you, I don't care if Sosa do a show, if Chef do a show, I'm gonna get right up there and say, did y'all check out the Niggerschmidt source? Because if you haven't read Niggerschmidt, you ain't read nothing. No,
you ain't even taking this serious if you don't know what Niggerschmidt.
Yeah, you ain't taking, man. If you ain't Niggerschmidt, then see, this is where Tri-Media come in my silliness. And plus, it's late for me. I got to get up at 3 o'clock. All right, so nobody is coming up to the what's the name? And I'm actually glad nobody's coming up, because I want to make sure nobody's up here with no Niggerschmidt nobody up here acting Niggerschmidt, you know what I mean, and acting crazy. Shouts to I Am.
What's up, I Am? I see you in the chat.
Yeah, peace to I Am, man. I really appreciate it. Did you watch her real estate show?
I mean, we was live. I couldn't see.
Damn, I just put you on the spot, didn't I? I apologize. You kind of did. If you didn't, I want you to watch the show. I actually went through her catalog. When I do I know what we're doing behind the scenes, I get that, but when I do start doing that show that we talk about, I'm definitely going to appreciate you too, Feti. I'm definitely going to try to do some partner shows with her. I want to, because I like her perspective. And then two, from the East Coast, our real estate strategies are a little different. Our investment strategies are a little different. And I would love to kind of marry the two and see where she's at versus where I'm at, and see how we can meet in the middle. You know,
Yes.
no nigga Schmidt business over here. You know what I
She's
mean?
a
I
very
really
nice
appreciate
lady
that.
and very clearly intelligent, and I enjoy her content too. I go over there and support whenever I get a chance. You know what I'm saying? Because like real talk, I think that what she's talking about is some pretty important stuff. Keeping it real.
So said,
It's not.
I know several niggas named Smith.
Yeah, that ain't no nigga Schmidt over there.
That ain't no nigga Schmidt over there. She doing good stuff.
Hey, what's the go back. Let me see the what the name of.
Ain't this your source or this mine?
No, that's your screen. I'm trying to see what the top of the Wikipedia says.
Okay.
I got the definition of dysgenic right here on the screen. So now I want clear definitions of that word. I think there was another word inside that Wikipedia that I hadn't seen before, and I think that's a good wrap up point right there.
Okay, where right here?
It's just straight up dysgenics.
Yeah, it's just dysgenics. David Starr Jordan. I think this sentence is crazy. Despite these concerns, so let's say what the concerns are. Most recent concerns about supposed dysgenic effects in human populations have been advanced by the controversial psychologist Richard Lynn, notably in his 1996 book, Dysgenics, Genetic Deterioration in Modern Populations, which argued that changes in selection pressures and decreased infant mortality since the Industrial Revolution have resulted in an increased propagation of deleterious traits and genetic disorders. Okay, so the Industrial Revolution, okay, I get it. Back when they were doing all of the work, there were more people dying, more children dying. Now that we have more children living, okay, I get what he's trying to say. But this is the part I'd like to look at. Despite these concerns, genetic studies have shown no evidence for dysgenic effects in human populations. And I think that sentence would be a good start for anybody trying to further the conversation. Now, notice I'm not saying combat the conversation. Notice I'm not trying to say combat the information or combat Feti. Whatever someone else does with the information we presented tonight, all you'll be doing is furthering the conversation and furthering the information, and hopefully we moving forward. And I'm gonna tell you right now, period, point blank, I ain't with no nigga Schmidt. So if y'all
that's why they can't get niggas technology right there.
So if you come on here tomorrow and you talking that nigga Schmidt stuff, the brass is a racist, and Trimedia is racist because we gave Feti a platform, I'm gonna punch you square in your nigga Schmidt mouth. And that's and you know what's fucked up about this part? You know what's fucked up about this is that he's probably a genius, a scholar, and two guys in 2024 are just literally just using his name as pure satirical comment.
Right, that dude probably cold as all outdoors.
He probably been a finalist for the Nobel Peace Prize in genetics. And all we keep saying is I ain't interested in none of this nigga Schmidt stuff. So anyway, hey man, we love y'all. Once again, let me do my thank yous. Thank you, Logic, for taking this journey with me tonight with Feti. Thank you, Chef and Corey, for allowing us to. I know we partners, bro. I get it, but I'm always try to be in a situation, a state of humble gratitude, humble out and be in a state of gratitude. So I appreciate you for allowing us to stream live on both channels, and I don't know, bro. You got anything? I'm done. I'm all nigga shit out.
I'm just going to read right here what it says. It says the statement that genetic studies have shown no evidence of dysgenic efforts in human population refers to the idea that there is no clear or conclusive genetic evidence supporting the hypothesis that human populations are experiencing a decline in overall genetic fitness or intellectual capability due to changes in reproduction patterns or other factors.
All right, so I'm gonna say this. So go ahead. I'm sorry. I
think that in some way opens the door for what Feti's saying, or what Charles could be saying. But you can't forget that the statement is there's no clear, conclusive genetic evidence. So
Yeah, I think
let's not forget it says that. Okay, but I'm done.
All right, hit up the Discord. I don't know if the link is pinned, but hit us up on one of these shows. Maybe you'll get into the Discord, maybe not. Discord link is pinned. Like and subscribe for business opportunities. Try media innovations at gmail.com. Thank you to all our partners and mods. Carnivorous Podcast. Shout out to True Savior, man. I gotta call him this week. Peace to True Savior. Check out his channel. Peace to I Am on the Spot. Check out her channel. We got to get her link in here. Shout out to my man Sosa, King Sosa. I know he's gonna go live probably tomorrow in the afternoon. That's more like his thing. And these are the links. Shout out to I Am King Sosa, YouTube, Carnivorous, Smash Rockwell. Shouts to the Magi Archers, True Savior. Support those channels and subscribe, man. And I wouldn't even know Feti, U, Hits, or DQ if I was never a part of the PK server. So shout out to the God Killer, my man Kent. Shout out to Marcus, the Archives, Gideon, all of y'all. Much love. And I see y'all journey. I think that's fire. Hopefully y'all start doing those brain shows again, the star shows again. Critiquing the old shows.
Shout out to the brain shows, yo. The brain shows is fire, bro. That was definitely some super stuff right there. It was new. The new conversations be what's up. And let me real quickly, man. My last thing, I'm gonna close out. I'm disappointed in y'all, and I'm talking about y'all in the audience out there because I know that y'all gotta have some strong opinions about this conversation. But I get the impression that y'all weren't able to follow the big words well enough to come up here and articulate your goddamn point. All right, go ahead. I'm done.
Last but not least, I can't forget my guy, Chief X. Shout out to them Colorado Buffaloes. I love what Deion Sanders is doing. Shout out to his channel. Make sure you go out and check out Chief X. I'll be waiting on that gentrification show, Chief. And in closing with Deion Sanders, whether Deion Sanders and the Buffaloes win, lose, draw, or make the college playoff, I want y'all to picture something real quick as a father. I'm going to close on this. Imagine being able to coach your son on offense and get him to the NFL. And then when the defense is on the field, you're coaching your other son on defense. He might make the NFL, but at a bare minimum, he's a celebrity at this point. So he's going to be taken care of for the rest of his life. All the while your other son is videotaping the whole damn thing. If that ain't a father's dream, I can't even imagine. So I appreciate you, everybody, and buffbandwagoner.com. And y'all be good, man. Shout out to DQ. Shout out to my partners. Shout out to Hits. I know he's somewhere probably getting some rest because all he do all day long is the internet stuff. And we out.
Tribe Media. Tribe Media. It's DQ, baby. Tribe Media. Check. Tribe Media Innovations, we gotta wait. What? Took a little minute, was patient, but now we take it. Anytime we want this game, my situation is entertainment intertwined with information. Alchemist soul, how we move the tassel and roll. It's amazing how we can turn something brass to gold. And we steady making hits. Architect with the prop in the scripts. It's logical that the product will flip. My boy Chef did the lineup, I'm fresh in the bitch. Carnivorous Podcast, the newest show on the list. DQ on the boat, so I'm rocking the ship. So all the music gon' be dope and the artist legit. Hold my beard, concrete cord, then stepped in the door. See, that's my man and he reppin' for show. The true savior's a player with flavor. Lexicon Taylor, lines on point like a laser. We need that paper, we building the vault. Cause you niggas don't listen, y'all be waiting to talk. Lack accountability and try to make it our fault. But opposing us is trying to arm wrestle the hawk. You coming up short on your re-up, nigga we up. Really wouldn't want to be up. I kick my feet up. My beef is wagyu and my truck is all speakers. Bills is all blue and my blunt is all reefer. With possible deniability, that boy eater. High quality whack juice by the liter. They like to call us ops.